Good morning, everybody. This is the Oskar Quentin Show, where we discuss politics and related things with people who call into my show on TikTok Live, and very soon through a phone number. We are buying some hardware to make that happen in a way that protects the account better. I think the prompt is a little controversial today, so after I remind everybody watching this after the fact that you can find a pinned comment telling you when the calls start in the YouTube description, or in pinned comment in the YouTube comments, and then full timestamps in the description. Other than that, I would just like to make a very quick announcement, and I'm actually going to model the way that I do this announcement. Just, I think sometimes it's good to take advice from leadership in this country, and we have some strong leadership right now, so I'm just going to model my announcement based on some great words from our current leadership. Lindsey Graham just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Dash Oskar Quentin. Anyway, so if you think that's controversial, somebody in the TikTok chat said, "Nope, not controversial. Think about how Donald Trump talks to the deceased." Yep, beat me to it. That's what we're going with today. I got that shit at the ready for when people wanna talk. But we're gonna jump right into it today. If the multi-guest request queue will open, there we go. All right, we got a non-Latin characters username, but I am going to do what I try to do first every day when I remember, which is to get in here with the backup account. Going to request Oskar Quentin music. If you're not following Oskar Quentin music over here on TikTok, get to following. Background noise. Microphone is fucked on that phone, which is why it's always noisy when I join. All right, we're gonna see. I'm gonna hover the disconnect button because we've been dealing with a lot of trolls lately. We'll see if we hit the ground running with that. Don't know this username, but please start the call by telling me how old you are. Hello, how old are you?
I am Gadolf Nigler.
We're gonna talk to Pepper, dat boy Pepper. Hello.
Hi, I'm 20 years old.
Okay, do you support Trump?
No, not at all.
Looking for Trump supporters today, everybody. So if you are a Trump supporter and you're watching the show here on TikTok, get in the multi-guest request queue. It's a button just above the backup count down here. Click on that. Let's talk about it. And for everybody who missed the gag at the beginning, if people are offended of my sign making light of the dead, we are going to talk about Trump making light of the dead. We're gonna talk about it. Let's see what we got in the chat. I am absolutely what's wrong with this country. Oh my goodness. Please hit the multi-guest request button thingy and tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong with what's wrong with this country. I'd like to know. And I'd like to thank Kronos for $5 on YouTube Super Chat. He says, "Stuck alone at work, so no mod from me today. Have a great stream. I'm alone at work, so give me some luck. LOL." Best of luck for you for your workday, Kronos. Let's have a good stream. Okay, jokes aside, Lindsey Graham has died. This is going to trigger a special election for the primary in South Carolina for his Senate seat, which they need to pick somebody by, it's on August 11th that the special election is going to happen. So he was an incumbent candidate, which gave him a better chance, and he had something like 58% of the vote going into the primary. So now we have a group of candidates, something like 5 of them, who had previously 42%, something like that, collectively support from the GOP. So they have to pick somebody. South Carolina is now in the same situation as Maine, trying to replace Plattner with a candidate who people will actually vote for. So Plattner was an L for the Dems because we don't elect rapists, and Lindsey Graham is going to be an L for the Republicans because, he's hanging out with Mitch McConnell somewhere, in my opinion. Rogue Ghost is in the chat. Do we think Putin informed Trump he was going to squash the ladybug? What does that mean? Is that code for something? I don't know what that means at all.
I think the ladybug is in reference to Lindsey Graham. I heard a theory online that Russia killed Lindsey Graham due to poisoning or something.
Watch us get a misinformation flag.
Hey, I heard from the grapevine.
Yeah, in Minecraft, right?
Right, totally.
Other housekeeping, it's another day off for Jessie. She had some family plans this weekend, so we've got Raven sitting on the other side of the room in the producer chair. So if you hear God voice come in, it's Raven. We did a few shows with a live producer where they weren't mic'd, and it was silly. They had to run over here to get a word in edgewise, and that's silly. Brief sudden illness. That's the announcement. Somebody said Mitch passed Lindsay past OMG. I'm so happy. Yeah, I think we'll see how the TikTok TOS loves it. This is kind of the gag today is kind of a dangerous one for the account. We'll see how it goes. But that's why you guys are following the backup account, right? Because I just think that when the president so publicly mocks the dead, it gives us warrant to do the same, right? So we're gonna see if Seydou Nzea. I'm glad that Raven's in the room, so she can just see the username on the screen while she writes the timestamps. Just showed up in the queue. You shouldn't be teacupped. How old are you? Goodbye. Raven needs like an on-air sign or bat signal on the wall, but a raven, not a bat. Well, we should get like producer cam eventually when we set up the studio better. We'll like have like a button. We can have like turn on the producer camera so people can see you there. That's what the big shows do, right? I don't know. Is today another one of those days where nobody's gonna call in because the news is gonna make them uncomfortable? Because like, look, at the end of the day, like, it is a bipartisan issue. The fact that we have such elderly leadership in the government, they die sometimes. Like, conspiracy theories aside, like he was old. He was 71, well, isn't very old, but a sudden illness can take anybody, and it gets more likely as you get older. But yeah, I just think I think we need to not get to pearl clutching about it, given what's going on in the government and given the way the president speaks about the deceased. So we're going to talk to Reverend Mary, and we're going to see if Reverend Mary takes issue with my sign or anything I've said so far in today's episode, or anything I say generally. How old are you?
37.
You a Trump supporter?
No, I broke the Lindsey Graham news, though.
What do you mean you broke the
I was
Lindsey
the
Graham?
first one. I even edited the Wikipedia page and everything. I just felt like I did my country a service, letting everybody know that crusty old man is going in the ground.
W's in the chat for Reverend Mary. When you say you broke the news, like, do you have some privileged access? Are you like involved in some way?
I won't go into that, but yeah. It was a little after 2:30 last night.
Yeah, and, I found out pretty quick. I happened to be up late last night, so
it was a member of his campaign staff that basically was big mouthed, and yeah, for the first like 10 minutes I was saying it, people actually kept saying, "Stop spreading misinformation."
Maybe message me Ooh, let's see. Guest violation warning.
Me?
Yeah, I don't know why. Let's see. Flagged for misinformation. Message me about that misinformation. Restricted for some audiences. Remove
That's
Oscar.
insane. I'll drop down, but yeah, Lindsey Graham definitely died.
Okay. Wait, hold on. It wasn't you. It was my guest account, which was muted.
Oh.
We're fucking in for it today. That's hilarious. I think we are going to restart the stream, so message me, by the way, because it sounds like...
Yeah, and anybody in the chat here who thinks that she's lying, no, you can DM me. I don't give a shit. I'm not here for clout. I don't take money from TikTok or create content. I'm in this for the love of the game. We are changing the world in America. That's why we're here. But yeah.
Do message me. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, you got it.
Bizarre, the Oskar Quentin 2 account got flagged, even though it was sitting here fucking muted. What does that mean happened, TikTok? We are going to restart the live stream. So if you're watching on YouTube, you don't need to do anything. If you're one of the 361 people watching this on TikTok, get to following me, even though you don't need to. I just want you to, and it makes it a little easier to find me live. But I am just going to restart the live, so just hang out. It's going to be a picture of my face in a second. Click on it, wait 10 seconds, refresh it, and then we'll get going. So just hang tight on YouTube while we get back into it. And maybe... Oh, wow, we got spam, too. Here, you know what? Let's get this guy blocked before we restart. Goodbye. All right, now we're going to restart. See you guys in like 15 seconds. And live, not currently live on TikTok, which means we get to talk about the fact that Donald Trump has almost certainly fucked a ton of children with Jeffrey Epstein. Wow, I love talking about that while I'm not live on TikTok. My goodness. We love the TikTok shop, but right now they're not listening, and Trump definitely fucked a bunch of kids. Anyway, moving along with no misinformation, hopefully, for today's stream. And look at that. I think I actually have a second backup account to use. We're going to switch back to Oskar Quentin 2 and get that account in the stream, because Oskar Quentin Music is banned for the day for that misinformation flag for saying nothing at all while muted. How wild. That is fucking interesting, because the caller was saying some definitely publicly not certifiable information that maybe flagged the system, and I bet TikTok's going to be a little heavy-handed with the flags today. So if I get taken down, I get taken down, which is why you should make sure that you are following the backup account, which I guess we're going to have to switch back to Oskar Quentin 2 for a day.
I had seen right before we went offline on TikTok that somebody said Aaron Parnas went live last night to break the news and got banned really fast for misinformation.
Whoa. Interesting. Banned or flagged?
They said banned in chat.
That's gonna be interesting. But I don't know why. I can't fathom why my backup account that was muted just got a flag for misinformation. Like, that's...
I have to assume it thought it was that one speaking instead of the guest. Just a glitch.
But you'd think that, like, the whole point of having the flags separated from the accounts is that sort of thing doesn't happen. That's totally bizarre. Let's see. I think we have some Buy Me a Coffees to read, because Lucky Phil sent for $2. Graham McConnell, they say it comes in threes. Uh-oh. Nobody heard that. I don't condone that message.
I actually wonder if maybe like some AI modding was involved, because you sometimes speak in the third person and the account has Oscar in its name.
Oh, I wonder. I do talk about myself in the third person, which is kind of douchey, but I think I do it when I'm doing it. I'm kind of distinguishing the guy that I am, because I am just like a person with like my online personality, which is just me because I'm authentic on here, but it exists in this shell of like obeying TikTok terms of service while I'm live on TikTok, and then thinking about reach and thinking about exposure and stuff. So like, I don't say anything that I don't believe with my chest up here, but I do like think about tact. Lucky Phil just sent another $2 on YouTube, or not on Buy Me a Coffee, to say Oskar Quentin 2, shut up.
I just want to re-add about the Aaron Parnas thing. I read that in chat. I haven't even looked into it myself, so that is straight up not verified information.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said that his account has posted today, so he's not like banned. But also, when we talk about the ban, you can get a live stream restriction that we call the like 3-day ban, is like generally the weapon that the TOS system uses, and then that doesn't ban your account. You can still post and interact. You just can't go live. We're gonna see what David thinks about all this. You ready? Oh, David's 59, right?
David's 59 and kind of sad that you're about to be a millionaire.
That's right. Yeah, he was really mad about that. Hello, David.
People.
Hello,
Are you
what?
upset? Are you upset today? Yeah.
I have a prepared... Oh, of course, Dog's upset that... Well, okay, you know what? Hold on. I have a prepared statement. Are you ready for it?
No, not really. Are you celebrating today?
I have a prepared statement on the matter. Are you ready for it?
I don't need your mental illness. I'm just asking if you're celebrating today.
Okay, here's my statement. Lindsey Graham just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Anyway, David's such a bitch. He can't even handle my prepared statement. Hilarious. Noodle's actually a bitch. Come here, Noodle. Come here. Heave. Hang out, Noodle. Okay, Noodle and David are both bitches. Noodle is literally a bitch. David is figuratively a bitch. And Lindsey Graham is dead. And I'm just going to keep reading the words of the president to Trump call. I think that's the gag today. I think people are going to call in, say, how dare you celebrate this? And I'm just going to read that fucking Truth Social with Lindsey Graham's name swapped in. Ah!
I still say you should do it once without it on the screen so that they can have an honest reaction.
Oh, yeah. We'll switch it. We'll switch it up. We'll go back and forth. Okay, wait. I don't even need to have it open because it's queued up on the Chrome thing. That's going to be the fucking gag today. We could do... See, maybe with more people working on the videos, we could change it up a little bit how we do this, and we could like do a supercut of me reading that to Trump supporters and how they react. And I think that's a better video if they don't see it on the screen when I say it.
I've been begging you to let me make funny clips, so... Well,
we got to get caught up on the regular clips first, because we are still like a dozen episodes behind. Let's see, do we have anybody in the request queue? We do! We're going to talk to Young J47. And we're going to see how he feels about the news. Hello.
Hello.
How old are you?
27.
You support Trump?
No, I just want to say fuck ICE and fuck Trump.
Yeah, dude. Let's keep the queue open for Trump supporters. Doing a thing here. Sue, I have been behind on getting through my messages, but I have gone and clicked and saved that source. It is in my stack of stuff to add to the bookmark. So I appreciate you, Sue. We're gonna talk to Anthony Peps and see what he thinks about all this. Hello, how old are you?
25.
You got a lot of background noise. Do you have Bluetooth connected?
Yeah.
Can you disconnect it?
Is it really bad?
It's bad enough. All right. PSA, everyone. For whatever reason, Bluetooth sounds horrible on video calls and live streams and stuff like that. You should just use your phone's microphone. It is always better. TikTok's pretty good at noise canceling. It's pretty good at getting rid of the out loud noise that's coming out of your phone from the microphone signal going in. They've kind of solved that with live video conferencing and stuff over the last few years.
Could I have you turn callers up a little bit for me?
Yeah. W. Raven sitting in the producer's chair today because it is Jesse's day off. He's gone. He couldn't figure out how to turn off his Bluetooth, so he left. Can we have a chat about Klobuchar's statement towards the end of the show? I actually don't know which statement you're talking about, so maybe somebody in the Discord can let me know. Yeah, I let's see, where's the viewership at? We're at 270, and we're 6 minutes into a reboot, 10 minutes after starting the show. Interesting. Oh, Klobuchar made a statement about Lindsay. Martin says, because it's ridiculous and non-productive. Your comment is ridiculous and non-productive because I don't know what it's about, Martin. I don't have the perspective on the world that you do. I'm a different person with different things going on in my attention right now. There's lots on this screen, and only a small percent of what's on my screen, and what's going on in my attention right now is your comment. It's egocentrism is what causes people to not realize that they're communicating in a way that other people don't understand. So maybe tell me what's ridiculous and not productive. You use a word like it or that or something like that in a chat. It's often not clear what you're talking about. We're going to talk to Augustine. We're going to see what she has to say today on this particular Sunday. Hello, how old are you?
Yo, I'm 19. I don't know if you remember me from last time. I was the one on your live at the toilet a while ago. I just hopped in this.
Yeah, not 19, and you definitely showed people feces on my show, so not going to have any of that. Grindr's having a moment of silence for Lindsay today. Yeah, they lost one of the greats. Oh, look at Raven. You're getting people blocked over there. I love it. Excellent. Oh, Martin says my show. Okay, come up and let's talk about it. I'm going to mute you for the day because we don't have another caller. So hit the request button just above here if you want to continue that conversation. Gucci says that Israel lost a great senator. I agree. That's a good one. I'm going to steal that.
Russia lost a great ally.
Yeah. Did Trump say that Graham died like a dog? Did he really say that? That's crazy. My dog's even upset about it. You guys hear her barking. Disney has lost yet another princess. Oh my God. I think the gag today for those just joining is that because people get so offended about the idea of people on the left celebrating the deceased on the right, we are just going to keep reminding people that Trump does that shit a lot. So I think that's kind of the name of the fucking game today, is making fun of this whole fucking situation, making fun of the fact that we actually have a fucking Weekend at Bernie's situation in the not in the White House, but in the government, in the fucking Capitol, because I believe that Mitch McConnell is not fit to serve. I think I think that's obvious. I think that the people of I'm brain farting. Kentucky, right? Is that a brain fart? Kentucky, right? Am I tripping? That's embarrassing if I got it wrong. Massey's state, all right? Yeah, I think they deserve to have this situation handled in the way that the law says. And if he's as not alive as people think he is, then there should be a special election and Thomas Massey should have a chance. And I'll fucking endorse that monster because I don't like him. But when I talk about going back to the days of old when Republicans and or conservatives and liberals argue about shit like different you know, like fucking tax brackets and abortion and stuff. Very important stuff. Affects lots of people. I'd love to go back to arguing with people like Lindsey Graham about that instead of arguing with the president about whether or not the Constitution should be followed. So I'll give Massey a fucking endorsement if he gets to run in this special election. But no, right? They're not going to give proof of life. They're not going to prove to the public that Mitch McConnell is in any meaningful way alive. People are going to keep having interesting phone calls with him and talking about what they talk about. Mitch McConnell himself told me this morning that Lindsey Graham is totally alive and well. Right? Like, come on. Somebody's asking about a Minnesota flag. Yes, it is a Minnesota flag. It says fuck ICE on it. With Graham gone, Republicans only have a 1-vote majority in the Senate. That's right. That's right indeed. Yeah, even until such time as a special election is done, like that makes it interesting.
I do think that they're just going to appoint somebody to fill the Senate seat until midterms.
Sure.
And it's projected to be a Republican, but hopefully not a Trumper.
Well, I mean, and that's just it. Like, there's so much. I think it's valuable for there to be shakeup in the Senate right now, because I do believe in a path forward that involves us winning some seats in the midterms and then just having some Republicans who are willing to dissent, because it'd be crazy if one of them ended up being Massey. But this is pretty fucking crazy. Lindsey Graham died out of nowhere. You know, and I mean, Graham's not going to take his seat, of course, wrong state. But like, who is, we don't know. It's a fucking toss-up. And as we saw in the most recent presidential election, when a candidate gets replaced last minute, there's definitely room for crazy shit to happen. 2020 felt like a referendum on Trump, and the people spoke. And the fact that he won again had a lot of contributing factors. But of course, one of them is how badly the Democrats biffed it. I just have greater confidence in the idea that the pollsters can't have a good grip on what's going to happen in the midterms and what's going to happen in these special elections if they happen. It's somebody saying in the comments, it's another Kamala campaign for someone. So it's interesting. It's interesting. What is going on? What are you hearing? What do you hear in the hallway? Come here. Come tell me. Use your words. Use your English words to tell me what's going on in the hallway, because you're being very noisy during the show, which I will say, I have been doing this show every day for like 100 days. I am very surprised that my dog is not constantly barking throughout the entire show. I don't know how. She barks all the time. It's far less of a disruption than I thought. She's an alert dog, which I kind of live in a shithole, and I actually credit my barky dog with the reason I haven't been robbed, because people get robbed in this building. But Noodle's so scary sounding that they don't kick the door in. Yay, Noodle. W Noodle. Rally Root says it's anyone's race at this point. Anyone's race is not really the right language around this. It just, I think that if anybody tells you with confidence that some particular outcome of the election, unless it's a mathematically impossible outcome, I think anybody who speaks with certainty about what the outcome of the midterms is going to be is foolish or lying to you. I don't, we can't be sure about these things. We've never seen so disruptive and unprecedented a time in American politics. We've certainly never seen so much attention on the midterms. I just leave it open for the fact that there are so many non-voters in this country who might vote that it will change the perspective that the pollsters have drastically. Restricted for what? Harassment and bullying. What did I just say? Dude, the censorship is out in force. Okay, now here, I think we probably have to restart. I will say this before we restart. We are going to restart, but I'll say this before we restart. The last time this happened, and I saw this happen on a lot of lives, it was because Trump bombed a school. And because there was 24 hours where the question, did the U.S. military bomb that school, was up in the air, because of that, everybody was getting misinformation flagged for talking about it in any way, but now we can talk about it because it is well known to the public that we did bomb a school. So I think maybe we're in a situation here where this topic is going to be touchy. Fuck it. If I get censored, I get censored. I'll see you guys on TikTok in about 10 seconds. We're restarting. Make sure you're following, everybody. Hey YouTube, TikTok's offline, so we get to talk about the fact that Trump raped a bunch of kids with Epstein. Almost certainly. I'd bet my lunch on it. Holy shit. I'd bet my Noodle, how about you quit your barking before we start the show? Come here. You can do some, before we go live on TikTok, I'll just say this to you. There's treats in the yellow dish up there. You can, like, give her some sit commands and stuff. Just get her fired up on listening. That'll get her a little more focused up for the rest of the show. Anyway, Trump definitely raped a bunch of kids with Epstein. Going back live on TikTok. We're going to see if we get that misinformation banned for talking about what's happening in the news today. Triple stream. Maybe like it'll keep turning over the algorithm and we'll just get like an actual like bunch of new viewers and callers and stuff. That'll be interesting. But we're definitely fighting the mods today. All right, let's see what's going on. Snake Snake for always being so busy in the Discord with news. There's so much of it I can't even respond to, but like my news feed is basically curated by Snake right now and he does an amazing job. So fucking W's in the chat for Snake. Trump said that Lindsey Graham's death was a big blow to the Save America Act. Trump said that he spoke with Graham shortly after his return from Ukraine. Trump said that it could have been Graham's call, adding that he could not believe it when a member of Graham's office called President early Sunday morning to notify him of the senator's death. But Klobuchar wrote a tribute to Lindsey Graham, quote, "It was a shock this morning to find out that my friend Lindsey Graham has died. He was a man who loved his work, his country, and his family," she wrote on social media. Amy Klobuchar has my endorsement for the Minnesota governorship because there's nobody the fuck else to endorse, but it is one of those soft endorsements. A hard endorsement is when I'm actually excited about a candidate. A soft endorsement is when it's the lesser of two evils. And Amy Klobuchar is the lesser of two evils against Mike Lindell. So she was going to maintain my endorsement, but fuck her for saying that. David sent me $5 on Venmo to say the reflecting pool was drained just the other day and now Graham dies. Talk about draining the swamp. Ooh. Oh, let's get the backup account on the screen before I bring this caller in. Gonna request, gonna accept. Gonna join. What was that, Raven?
I was gonna ask if it had to be the other one because it got flagged, but that was last.
Yeah, that was the first stream restart today. We've had two, and we're gonna see if Pink Pastel is gonna try to get us taken down yet again, or if we're gonna have an interesting conversation about politics. I'd actually really prefer the latter, personally. I'm gonna talk to Pink Pastel. How old are you, Pink Pastel? Hello, how old are you?
Can you hear me?
Lots of background noise, and you sound very young. How old are you?
I know I sound young and you probably don't remember me. I'm not sure why you thought I was a troll, but you banned my account that I've been donating you money on for a really long time. If you could unban it.
Well, you can, if we made a mistake, you can message us and maybe we can sort that out. But how old are you?
I get it. I'm 19. I was born in 2007, April 7th.
Okay, it was just today you were kind of, what happened? I don't even remember. It's all a blur already.
Well, I've been stopping in every now and again, but it was a while ago before Dean Withers collabed with you on your live for a second, or joined it, and I made a joke about being on the toilet because of my condition, and you thought I was a troll at first, but we had a pretty long, good conversation, and then I didn't join in for a while, but
I did mistake you for somebody who... Yeah, was showing me a toilet on the stream. That's what I thought you said. Why have you called in? Are you a friendly?
I was just gonna. I was originally gonna call in because I just wanted to say good morning and hope everything's going well. You need that positive message through the negative.
I appreciate that, but if you're watching that long, you should know we're trying to keep the line open, and it's not. And I'll say this as an announcement to everybody: calling me during the show to deal with something that should be a message to the mods is not a good use of airtime. Please respect the fact that it is hard work keeping viewership up on this show. One of the things I do is I look around at other lives, I look at people's statistics, I look at how many followers they have, I look at how long they've been doing it, I look at how active they are on other social media, and I consider the way that they behave on the show and the amount of dead air that they have and the way that they handle gaps when there aren't callers, the way they handle donations, the way they handle gift goals, and I work really, really, really hard to run the show in a way that's authentic to what my political mission is, to what my beliefs about facts of reality are. All of that stuff comes first, but what comes second is trying to get that in front of as many people as possible, and it's kind of hard work to keep this show tight and busy in such a way that it makes good radio for people. So when I make when I quickly disconnect callers, it's something that I'm doing just to protect what we're working on here. So link tree in the bio if you want to be one of the many people who are supporting that. Yeah, I think she needs some treat charging up. Get her to go.
I did 2 already.
Well, just grab the dish so you can keep giving her attention, because it's easier to get her to do something good instead of to get her to stop doing something bad. That's kind of we're doing live dog training because I have an in-house producer. We're going to talk to Daniel Savage and see how old he is and if he's going to be difficult on my show. How old are you?
Trump 2028.
Camera on. How old are you?
Trump 2028.
Camera on. How old are you?
Trump 2028.
No, dude, again, get the fuck off my show. Dogs and kids, that's what's on the fucking show today, because there doesn't exist a serious Republican left in this fucking country who wants to call into my show. I do think we're getting to a point. I was talking to somebody, I had a long conversation about this last night, how I think that like a normal Trump adult, if they had an hour-long conversation with me, would end up not a Trump supporter. I think that your average drank the Kool-Aid Fox News listener who's not really paying attention hasn't been paying attention to all the individual news stories that we talk about all the time on this show. I think that any such person just isn't a Trump supporter if they're really actually paying attention. And I just don't think we have very many of those left on TikTok. That's what I think is really happening. Which I'm excited to get the phone number on the screen to man, my dog's being awfully demanding today. Maybe she's upset about Lindsey Graham, which is why I want to get the phone number on the screen to talk to more people, because I just think we're saturating the TikTok space, and which is why we're left with nothing but trolls and white nationalists, actual hang them all bigots. People people who support the ideologies of somebody like Jake Lang, or just people who want to cause suffering by saying the N-word to a bunch of people on a show. Thank you, Marshmallow, for the $5 on YouTube super chat. Anyone here, anyone near the Inver Grove area? I have friends traveling through and wanted to check the ICE situation. Love the show and chat. Get in the Discord. Discord can probably help you out with that. We got lots of locals. Appreciate you. And let's see. Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, and Patreon are the ways to pay. If you're international, Buy Me a Coffee works. But do we have any callers? No callers. But we're getting the viewership back. Jake Lang wants to be a martyr so bad. Dude, I will say, I have said on this show so many times that, Savannah Hernandez shouldn't have been assaulted. That was not the move. I hate her guts, but, whatever, it was not the fucking move. It's not cool what the Ostruskos did. They know that I think what they did was bad. Not it was bad. They assaulted a person, but it wasn't treason. But Jake Lang did treason. He went to prison for J6, and Trump released his ass, and he's a fucking danger. He has assaulted me. He has assaulted my friends. He has assaulted crowds of people just for standing on the street corner, which is something I talk about ICE doing all the time. The guy is a wannabe, Hitler, pretty much. He's a fucking dangerous piece of shit. So I'll say this. He's a criminal who's walking the streets, and the government's not fucking protecting us from him. Look the fuck out. The guy's dangerous. Anyway, we're going to talk to Medic Court, who I think I've spoken to before. We'll see. I don't remember. Hello, how old are you?
Hey, I'm 48. I'm a friendly, and you can boot me if you want to, but I'm a paramedic, and I had some after seeing the video of them loading up McConnell, I have some insight about what I think happened. If you want to talk about it, but if not, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on. We actually have already kind of had that conversation with a medic. Raven, you might need to take her ass to the courtyard. She has not gotten her exercise today.
Do you have another ball?
Oh, yes. The cardboard box up there by the bass guitar has more balls in it. It's a little tucked away because I haven't needed another one in a while, but second highest shelf below the board games. Sorry, we're dealing with dog stuff today, which I've mentioned a couple times today. When I started running this show, I thought this was going to be impossible. I have a very noisy dog, but, happens. Beta male government. What a weird comment. And MM Pride Mama says, I have 4 dogs. I feel your pain. I like I was saying earlier, given the number of death threats I get, I'm really not all that annoyed that my dog barks when she hears something in the hallway. But Sleepy says, Oscar, you got attacked by Jake Lang. I wasn't super close. I was in a crowd of people that he sprayed mace at, so I caught a whiff of it. I don't need to have stolen valor on my interactions with Jake Lang. Where are my keys? Are they over there by the bedside? Yes. Yay, producer Raven. Make sure you pull the door tight on the way out so it clicks. Thank you. She's going to go take the dog for a walk. Producer position in this room also sometimes involves being my personal assistant in some ways, so that I don't have to deal with. That means
I'm also off timestamps, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Maybe somebody on the Discord will keep those in a message them to me or something. Somebody else do timestamps while Raven's gone. Just do it in the Oscars live so that we don't end up with a bunch of people doing it. We're going to talk to MamaJ. She, her, and we're gonna see what they have to talk about. Hello, how old are you?
I am 64.
Are you a Trump supporter?
But I am not. I wanted to let you know about ICE, what they're doing in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, what's going on? Is there news?
Yes, there is, and it's not being reported on it mainstream.
Let's hear it.
ICE agents are going to the homes of observers, protesters, even people that post stuff on Facebook, and intimidating them and wanting to question them. You know, it's a form of intimidation for using free speech.
Well, hold on. Are you talking about something that's happening today or like lately?
It's been happening lately. There was a man, I'm trying to remember his name. It was reported. I will try, Oscar, I'm going to give you a follow. I'll get that article. The man himself put it up on Facebook that ICE agents, he was out of town. ICE agents showed up at his house, questioning his wife and wanting to question him about a Facebook post that he posted.
I hear you, but if you can actually, there's a link tree in my bio to join the Discord. And if you want to get in there, you can get involved in the people who get me news. I'm in Minneapolis and I report on this stuff a lot. So that one's new for me, but I've been reporting on the Minnesota 15 and doing some on the ground stuff with that. So if you have information you want to help out, the Discord's the place to get it to me for sure.
Okay, I know about the Discord. I just wanted people in the comments to know. I'm sure I figured you probably know about that. I live up by St. Cloud, so we got them up here. We're still dealing with it up here. But good luck. Thank you for everything you do and being out there. Love you, brother, fellow Minnesota.
Appreciate you, MamaJ. Thank you so much. David sent another $5 to say on Venmo, Noodle Ball Fund. Yeah, I just lost another one because it bounced off a thing in like the place where I play fetch with her, and it like shot up and went off into the street. But I have a cardboard box over there with like a dozen fetch balls for my. She's a chocolate lab. She's not a purebred chocolate lab. She's a mutt. I knew her parents. I don't know how it added up to a chocolate lab, but she sure looks and acts like a chocolate lab. Thank you, Discord, for keeping up with the timestamps. Those will be there for Raven to get the VOD pushed after the show today. Like the number, he finally made it lowercase instead of uppercase because the E constant is supposed to be lowercase. But this is a friendly? See, I can never fucking remember. This is like somebody who's... I feel like the presence of this person on my show is something I don't mind, but he's going to have to remind me who he is. How old are you?
33.
Remind me what it is. I'm going to know. You're going to jog my memory, and I'm going to remember the entire conversation. I just cannot remember which one you are.
I was going to tell you, you made a very good analogy about Trump getting a DUI every single week versus someone who got a DUI 20 years ago.
Right,
and I would like to say thank you so much, because you know how easy it is to get into the right-wing ideology funnel. I'm going to call it a cult, right? And they have very interesting talking points. And they make it seem like they are Christian-centered. And I know you're atheist, right? Mm-hmm. Or agnostic, but they make it seem like they're Christian-centered, family-valued, and care about the troops. But when you dig deeper into it, after we had this conversation, I look and show that they're the complete opposite of that, right? They talk about caring for family values, but are breaking families apart. They say that they are conservative Christians, but do some of the most evil, dogmatic things that you can imagine. And then ultimately, the way that you broke it down was that if we have a president, I see the Lindsay thing, but if we have a president that's consistently lying to us and is consistently trying to be divisive, that's someone who we need to hand the keys over to someone else. I just wanted to say I appreciate that conversation. And it kind of got me back from the rabbit hole I was going down. That was it.
I appreciate you, man. I am pretty strict about I'll let you down. Thank you so much for hopping up and saying that. And I really mean it, because a lot of the time I just politely say thank you to people who said something nice to me, where it's like, get off my show, you're fucking up my airtime. No, that's a person who I was explaining how there are these constitutional blunders that every president has. Like, we can look at some bad stuff that Obama did. We can look at Biden trying to forgive student loans in a way that the Supreme Court found unconstitutional and go, okay, that's bad. But like, it's hard to live your whole life without doing something dumb. It's hard to be president for 4 or 8 years without doing something bad. it's, you know, it's a little bit like judging a person who got a DUI when they were like 20 years old, who's now 50, like 30 years ago, they did this dumb, bad thing, versus somebody who gets a DUI every week, which is what Trump is, where he, like, every week he has some sort of massive, ridiculous constitutional blunder. And that analogy really landed with that caller. And the reason I'll give that person airtime, regardless of what it does to my viewership, is because it shows that this show does change minds. I don't know how many minds I change from people who don't call in, but that's a person where when I said that to him, I can hear him saying it now. I dropped that analogy on him and he said, dang, and it really changed his thinking about this. So to hear back from somebody like that is incredible. So I'll give it a few minutes of airtime, and Copium Distributor is distributing some copium by saying that that makes this show an echo chamber. How adorable. We're going to talk to Johnny Simbas after I remind everybody about the link tree in my bio, where you can send me money on Venmo, Cash App, buy me a coffee, or Patreon, buy me a coffee if you're international, or get in the Discord, or follow me on all the other platforms. Those are ways to support the show. I appreciate it very much. But we're going to talk to Johnny Simbas, who I will invite to unmute. So there'll be a button on your screen to unmute, and you can start by telling me how old you are.
I am 34 years old.
You're a Trump supporter?
I was. I'll say that I'm sit somewhere on the fence now.
Okay. I like the fence sitter calls, because one thing I talk a lot about on this show is how, well, I talk more about this offline, is how a lot of these debate shows are about like getting the full conversion W or whatever. It just seems very competitive, like blood sport, whatever type of nonsense, when really I'm just trying to get people to be more reasonable and more educated. So if you moved closer, that's a win. And if you're somewhere in the middle, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's going on and what it really means for you to be a fence sitter. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, I guess, for me, being independent and a fence sitter is where I've always felt more comfortable. I've disagreed with the hard left and the hard right. I find myself leaning more right because of the liberal ideology that gets pushed nowadays, and you see it through Mayor Mamdani and any liberal city. You can really pinpoint different examples of it and how it's run pretty rampant in these blue cities. So I don't agree with most of their ideology, most of the Democratic hard left ideology. I also find like the MAGA. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts more comprehensively.
Well, I also like the hard right, like MAGA, idiotic, cultish side. I'm also not a part of that and don't agree with most of what they say either. But I do find myself leaning more conservative, based off how far left that liberal ideology has gotten, and it's being pushed. Not only
right. And one thing I've mentioned even on this episode of this show is that I kind of want to go back to a time where you and I could maybe have that argument about whatever it might be. I don't know if it's abortion. I don't know if it's tax policy. I don't know if it's welfare programs. I don't know what you're upset about. We might get into that. But more important than that is this thing about how, like, none of that matters right now. The government is being taken over by fascists. The government is being taken over by people who don't support the Constitution. Our elections are in danger. None of our opinions about those more, smaller issues, even though they're not small to certain people. To certain people, those particular issues are everything. Trans issues are everything if you're trans. Abortion issues might be everything if you're a woman who stands the risk of getting pregnant, which is lots of women. But you and me sitting here, I want to just check, first of all, if you recognize that the behavior that's happening in the administration is an emergency that supersedes any of the normal differences between conservatives and liberals in American politics.
Yeah, I think there are examples of that. I don't know if anything has actually concrete happened yet that would push.
I'm not talking about examples. I'm saying that unilaterally, the control that Trump and his associates and his loyalists have taken of the federal government is an emergency that is bigger than any particular political position I have. It is more important than abortion rights. It is more important than trans rights. It is more important than any of these welfare programs that I want to support. It is more important than any of that, because we can't make progress in either of the directions that you and I would want unless the government's functioning properly as a democracy. Like that is my thesis statement about the state of affairs.
Can you give me an example of how that's actually happening and taking hold right now? Or is that just like an idea of what you think is going to happen?
I think that Trump is using every available mechanism to try to get around the restrictions of the balances of power described in the Constitution. Just the other day, he's threatening states again with I forget exactly which mechanism it is because it's such a shitstorm of all the different ways he did it. Maybe the Discord or somebody in the chat can let me know quickly. But again, he's trying to enact changes to election policy in the states, which the Constitution is very clear is not the role of the president, and he is doing it by threatening them with other things that he does have a little bit of control over. Some of the things he's threatening them with, when he made an executive order that changed the rules for mail-in voting, which was flagrantly unconstitutional, just got shot down by the Supreme Court because it was so obviously unconstitutional and lacked an enforcement mechanism. He just openly threatened the states with withholding their funding if they didn't obey it, which again is also something that he doesn't actually really have the legal authority to do. It's just that he controls Congress through all these Republican loyalists who refuse to impeach him for all this shit. So I just picked an example, but there's a news story like what I just described every fucking week.
Right.
That's what I mean when I say that he's working hard to go against the Constitution.
I will say that he does that, and I completely agree with you, but I would say predominantly from what I've seen, unsuccessfully, right? So
Alex Preddy's dead, and his murder's not being investigated because of things that Trump has done. So, like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, how many murders that haven't been investigated can we go down the line?
Too many. How many are defended by the federal? How many are murders where the perpetrator is defended and protected legally by the federal government?
Too many.
Yeah. Overseas, I could say too many, regardless of who's in charge. And I'd love to get to fixing that problem, but we just can't do it if democracy isn't working at all. So I'm really concerned about the fact that there are things like that happening. I'm really concerned about the fact that ICE is documented violating people's constitutional liberties left and right and are constantly being defended and having their federal immunity, as it's referred to by such characters as J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, and the like. So like that is unprecedented. We have never seen such flagrant violation of the law by federal agents who are then in public defended by the people in the highest positions of power in the country. That's a fucking emergency, because it means that you don't have constitutional rights.
Right. And I think to some degree, what ICE is doing is a direct response to like the actions of a previous administration and how they completely lost control of our border. Like that is a direct response because of the
Why is doing any of that sensible? So, okay, let's talk about those border policies. Do you really think that Biden did something so bad that it's okay for the president to violate people's constitutional liberties to fix it? Is that your argument?
That's not my argument. I'm telling you that is what I'm saying that is what the response is when you lose control.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about losing control. Because you talked about their terrible border policies, even though the border policies that they tried to pass didn't get passed because Trump shot them down, even though that there was a bipartisan border bill written that Trump just said he didn't want in place for probably just because it was going to have Biden's name on it. Same reason you probably got rid of the JCPOA, because it didn't have Obama's name on it, even though it was a pretty good deal, especially in consideration of what's happened lately.
That was pushed towards the end of Biden's, right? That was a push for the election.
Just straightforwardly, can you tell me why there was so much illegal immigration during Biden's term? What happened that caused that?
I think I would say the border security wasn't as intact as it is now.
Nothing else that happened in the world that
border security.
Only border security. Like, so Biden got into office.
I would say that was the main function. Yeah, there may have been other.
Okay, so you're flatly wrong about that, and the fact that you think that demonstrates to me that you don't have an accurate picture of what's happened in American politics over the last 6 or 7 years. Because what actually happened is that if we look at history, we can see that the amount of illegal immigration into the United States has actually far less to do with local domestic policies or the actions of any particular president. It has a lot more to do with the motivations of people who are escaping difficulties elsewhere in the world. Bad economic conditions, crime issues, all the different reasons people immigrate to a country to try to seek a better life. If they can't get through the border legally because the system is very broken and the wait lists are long and it's difficult to navigate, they might make the choice to commit a misdemeanor and enter illegally to protect their families. And the biggest lever of control over how many people choose to do that is not what the policies in the United States are, but what the conditions elsewhere in the world are. So for the first 2 years of Biden's presidency, we saw slightly less illegal immigration than we normally do because there was slightly less migration the world over. Some of that happened at the end of Trump's first term. So even without considering that,
that's definitely a factor. I would agree with you on that.
I'm going to keep talking about it because it's an enormous factor, because we can look at the fact that there were 2 or 3 years of people, about 2 years of people who maybe piled up at the border and wanted to come in but weren't moving because of COVID. That doesn't account for all of it. The amount of illegal immigration there was in the second half of Biden's term was more than you would expect if for a couple of years of illegal immigrants piling up and then all coming in at once. But when we consider the fact that they were coming from countries that were really suffering because of COVID, the entire world suffered because of COVID, all those reasons I just listed about why a person might choose to immigrate illegally, those things were worse everywhere, especially in countries that didn't have the prosperity to deal with it in the way that the United States did, because we could have done better. I don't like the way that Trump did some of the things during the end of his first term. I think he made some serious blunders about protecting us from COVID, and that made it worse here. But compared to the other 200 countries on the planet, we are at the end of the spectrum of countries that did a good job with it, which is why so many people wanted to come here to escape the economic perils that were created in their homelands because of COVID. And those figures actually do make sense to account for the extra, yes, millions of people who illegally entered. So my question for you is that if you couldn't even think of that when I told you to like, I accused you of having no idea what you're talking about because you didn't bring that up when I asked for reasons. You said it was policy. What was the policy? What changed that makes you think that it was something other than what I just described?
Well, I think that's a fair argument to make, that there was more encounters to deal with during that administration. Absolutely, that's true for a number of reasons that you mentioned. But I think actually, like the enforcement, like what was the administration? They enacted a specific emergency. Am I off here?
You're talking about the current administration?
No, I thought that Trump enacted a specific executive action when he came into office. Is that correct? Or
this time around he did, but you called in
2024, right?
2024. It was 2025 because it was January of 2025 when he was inaugurated. And day one, he did a slew of day one executive orders, and one of them was declaring an emergency at the border, which gives the federal government a little bit more control over these sorts of things. So you can say that Biden should have done that sort of thing during his term, and you and I could have a conversation
way before he actually tried pushing that bill, which was an attempt to win an election.
You're putting the cart before the horse. The original question is, why did the illegal immigration happen to it? And now we're at a part of the conversation where you're saying that Biden should have responded to it better.
Isn't that an important part of it, though? Is the actual enforcement of border policy?
If you asked me if your house was on fire and somebody said, why is your house on fire? And you said it's because Oskar isn't putting the fire out fast enough, would that answer the question?
Sometimes it does. Yeah. Putting the fire out quickly and swiftly, it does solve the fucking problem.
Then you're not understanding.
There is no problem once it's put out, right?
But the police still want to know who started the fire. And the question was, why was there so much illegal immigration for Biden to deal with? You're saying it's because he failed to deal with it. And that doesn't answer the question. If I failed to deal with your house fire, that does not mean I set it on fire.
What was the difference? What was the difference in border encounters? How about that? That's a good question, right? Since that's your argument.
I think you're getting away from.
That's not getting away. That's the actual argument you're making, is that there was more border encounters during Biden's policy, during Biden's administration than Trump's.
There was more illegal entry, and I described some of the geopolitical, social, economic reasons why that was, which is pretty obvious.
But what does that have to do with it? We're talking about encounters. You're saying there's more people trying to come into our country during that time than Trump. Is that true?
You started the call by saying you started by saying that the reason for the increase in the amount of border crossings was Biden's policy, and now we're at a part of the conversation where you're saying that it was Biden's policy that failed to address that increase, and I'm saying that that's not an answer for what.
What is the difference?
I'm kind of
the policy. In turn, you get the enforcement comes with the policy. So what? How is that against? How is that different from what I was saying?
Because you're blaming Biden, and I'm just sitting here not understanding what.
Yes, I'm blaming Biden and his administration. When is that ever? Where am I going wrong? I mean, you can see the encounters, you can see the illegals that have
earlier. True or false? Earlier in the call, you said that the reason for the increase in illegal immigration during Biden's term was his policies. Is that what you said?
Yes. And is that not part of it? Is enforcement not part of that policy?
Right. But what I'm understanding is, how did his policy cause the immigration to happen, which is what you're claiming?
and let's just say his administration overall, right? So that's their policy, that's their enforcement, everything involved in that administration during that time with immigration. How about this? Kamala, she is supposed to be in charge of the border. How can you excuse her not even visiting the border once during the time? In 4 fucking years. You excuse that? I think that's a complete joke that she didn't even visit the border once, the Mexican border once.
These are pivots. Like, this has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with we still haven't solved.
The administration,
we are not. I'm going to exercise my authority as the executive producer of this show and say that we're not going to move on until you solve this for me. You you called in sure that Biden's policy were the cause of the illegal immigration, not the reason that the illegal immigration was not handled better. That is something we could actually talk about. But that makes sense. I recognize that he could have had policies that addressed it differently, but that just doesn't get to the root cause. Do you understand my house on fire analogy? If the house is on fire,
I understand what you're saying that, but I also say when the fire starts, you put it out immediately, right?
Isn't
that a good argument? Right, isn't that a good counter argument?
But you're saying that somebody who failed to put out the fire caused the fire. He's like, and you'd be a really shitty arson investigator if that was your claim.
Okay, so you're saying that Trump, in some way, is the reason for the immigration, the illegal immigration?
I never said that at all. And stop. Just going to pause for a moment, and I want to recognize that you just fell into a little bit of a trap that I see people fall into in these conversations a lot, which is that you think that because I'm not blaming Biden, I must therefore be blaming Trump. I was exceptionally clear about what I think caused the illegal immigration during Biden's term. Can you remind my audience what the reason I think it was?
You said because of current situations outside of the country that force people to move there's
a particular global event that happened.
Global events that cause other people from outside the country to migrate.
Do you remember what it was?
Was it COVID specifically, or
were you listening, dude? Like, I gave a really long explanation about how COVID.
It was a lot of it was a lot though. I was listening to it, but obviously you said a lot of things.
I didn't. I said a lot about one thing, which is that COVID caused the sorts of conditions the world over.
Did I not just say COVID though? What are we talking about? I just say COVID.
It just took you a little second to get to it. Like, it feels to me like you're not listening very well.
You asked me and I literally said COVID right away. I don't know what
you didn't say it right away. You said certain global events, conditions elsewhere in the world, which is correct.
Obviously, because it wasn't just COVID though that caused that. There was other events.
Yeah, there's always stuff going on. That's why there's always illegal immigration, because it's not super awesome in other countries. But we were talking specifically about COVID, and then I said because it wasn't Biden's fault, you think it's therefore Trump's, and that's just silly. Like, that's not how that works. That doesn't logically follow. You understand that, right? Like, not Biden does not equal yes, Trump. Right. There's an external cause. There was a global emergency. I think illegal immigration is bad. It's a bummer that there are 12 million illegal immigrants in this country. I want to address that situation. I think you and I actually have some common ground there. But we're just
absolutely
not. But you and I are going to accomplish nothing in this conversation if you jump to me thinking it was Trump's fault just because I said it wasn't Biden's fault. And I'm going to go back to what I said a second ago, which is that as executive producer of the show, we are simply not going to move on from the fact that you don't seem to think it's important that you called in convinced that Biden is responsible for the illegal immigration, that he caused it, not that he failed to respond to it.
His administration specifically.
Sure, the Biden administration. I say the same thing about Trump. I think Trump's an 80-year-old person who shits in diapers, who doesn't actually get involved very much in the policies of his administration. I think there's some other.
He has no idea.
I think there's some less senile fascists doing that work for him, mostly on a day-to-day basis. I think we can just say that Biden and Trump are a blanket term for their administration and their loyalists, right? Like, I think Trump has more loyalists than Biden, because I think most of the people who worked with Biden were loyal to the Constitution, and that's actually the problem that we're trying to get at in having these conversations on this show. But broadly, I'm still just not understanding, and maybe it's just that your refusal to make the concession about the way that you were talking about this, because I can accept an argument.
I agree with what you said. But I also counter-argued that my argument was the administration and their policies, right? Enforcement of the policy goes hand in hand with that. So I don't understand how I'm invalid.
Hold on. Okay. Then I'll let us move on from that. But I am just going to move on to a couple of things that were said earlier, and I'm just going to say the W for the day on Discord, because Discord's on it today. Because Kamala Harris did visit the border. You said that she didn't, but she did. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that. What did she stop by for a day and
She stopped by the border to talk about a harder stance on migration in 2024.
2024, right?
And you're
right
already
before the
minimizing
election.
it by saying
Good job.
stop by for a day.
Yeah,
But
it's an act. That's what they
but-
call.
Then why did it
That's what they call
matter
an
to you
act.
earlier in the call when you said that she didn't visit? Why are you now shitting on her for visiting?
She got
What the
called
fuck?
out and then she showed up. She got called out and then she showed up. That's the whole point.
This
She's
is
a joke.
this is a perfect example of moving the goalpost. You were upset that she didn't
It's
show
not
up.
moving the goalpost.
You were upset
It's
that
not.
you were upset that she didn't move up.
Why did it take her 4 years?
Listen, okay, I'm going to explain to you why it's moving the goalpost, because you were upset that she didn't come to the border, and then when I pointed out that she did come to the border, suddenly the goalpost isn't her going to the border; it's doing it earlier or something like that. That's the cope
it not
chuckle that
relevant?
comes
Is it not
when
relevant?
we hear the cope chuckle often when somebody has it pointed out to them that they've moved the goalpost in a very obvious way. It might be obvious to you that's relevant in this moment because you're moving the
Yeah, but
goalpost
it's laughable.
is off.
It's laughable to use that as an example. She waited to the last before the election to prove to everyone that she can go there. Like, come on, like you know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. Like, don't act like it's not an act. Like that wasn't some form of fucking just showing face to say, hey, I did visit the border. Look, everybody, it's right before the election. See, I'll show up at the border. Like, that's what it was.
Are you aware of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you aware of the
Did you
U.S.
ask?
Citizenship Act of 2021? It was a proposal. It didn't go through. Are you aware of that legislation?
No.
It was a sweeping legislative proposal introduced by the Biden administration. It sought to provide an 8-year pathway to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants, eliminate country-specific visa caps, reform border management, and officially replace the term alien with non-citizen in federal law.
Okay.
So, like, they were
I have
working
no
on
issue with that.
Okay, so you have no issue with that being the policy?
No.
Oh, then you probably take issue with Trump shooting it down.
Yeah, I do. I think immigration should be an easier process. I think that.
Okay, so it sounds like by the reasoning that you've been standing by for this entire call, it's not Biden's fault that there was so much illegal immigration. It's Trump's fault because 2021 ends. That's the end point of this period of reduced illegal immigration because of COVID, which was then followed by a huge surge in illegal immigration once transport the world over opened up after lockdown ended, and all these people needed to get into the United States to escape the economic conditions that COVID had given them in their home countries. We've gotten past the fact that it wasn't Biden's fault that happened. We landed on the fact that you think it's Biden's fault that it wasn't dealt with, but you just accepted that this policy would have been one that addressed it, and you said that would have been good, and it's Trump that shot it down. So you now recognize by using your own argument, it's Trump's fault that the immigration was that bad.
Well, I think I agree with what you're saying there. I do agree with you there. But I will say that he also took other actions that clearly showed that he didn't care about enforcement at the border. Like he dismantled multiple
Hold on.
Trump's.
Why are you moving on? You have conceded that it was Trump's fault, not Biden's. Trump is the reason it was as bad as it was, not Biden's.
I think we see leftovers from previous administrations. This is every time we get a new president, especially.
You're going, no. We talked about policy, and I gave you the specific policy that was shot down by Trump.
On that.
Okay, but now but instead of just admitting that you were wrong broadly, you're now moving the goalpost back.
I'm not admitting. Why would I be wrong broadly? We weren't talking specifically about that. You're talking about the turnover from the Trump administration to Biden when he took over. You see this every time a new administration takes over, especially from Democrat to Republican or vice versa. So that's typical.
We got on this conversation because you were defending that Trump is doing a bunch of unconstitutional shit out of necessity because of how severe the illegal immigration is. And now we've gone down the rabbit hole and find that the reasons that you're upset about the U.S. government's handling of the illegal immigration thing was Trump's fault. So much like the Iran war, which I keep bringing up as a parallel, it's another situation where he has thrown out good policy from Democrats to make a shitstorm that he then blames on the Democrats, does a bad job solving, and then blames that on the Democrats when it's him doing fucking all of it.
I think you brought up literally what we're just talking about. You brought up something that happened in 2021, correct? I'm speaking about
to bring up more things that happened in 2021. The chat is informing me that Kamala Harris actually did also visit the border in 2021. So when you moved the goalpost saying that, okay, fine, she did visit, but it wasn't early enough, is 2021
the
early
situation
enough?
changes is my argument.
Right, it changed drastically in 2021 when all of that lack of migration because of the COVID lockdown ended. That's the first time she visited. So again, like, are you going to move the goalpost somewhere else now? What is this?
No, she visited after she got backlash from everybody telling her, you're a complete fraud for not actually visiting the border. But
the people requested that the vice president do something and she did it? What a treasonous piece of shit. Like, are you not making any...
In the last year before the election?
God
it's a
forbid the vice president listen to the will of the people. What a motherfucker.
It took her 4 years.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. She did. No, you're ignoring what I just said. She did it in 2021, though. What are you talking about?
I thought you said 2024.
The chat is informing me in real time because I actually recognize that her physical presence at the border has nothing to do with policy or enforcement, and it's just a show for people like you to fucking care about for some reason. So I don't think it's all that. I'm not done explaining to you these numbers and how I came to know them just now, because I recognize that it's all just pageantry and it doesn't fucking matter where she physically is. She's the vice president. She doesn't carry a gun. It's not her job to enforce the border. That's not how it fucking works. It's just nincompoops
it shows a little bit of like actual...
To nincompoops like you, it shows a little bit of something, this or that, chutzpah or something. Who the fuck cares? None of it has to do with actual policy or law enforcement.
It does matter to me that she actually fucking cares. That she gets her fucking ass there.
Cool. Her shit is great. You're the type of nincompoop that sort of political pageantry works on.
You're the nincompoop that doesn't care. She's on a fucking private jet going there. Yeah, so it does matter to me.
Yeah, moving the goalpost to the mode of transportation that she used to get there. Jesus Christ, dude, you are fucking flailing. Because it's so... I'm not done explaining the fact that the chat pointed out to me that she visited in 2024. You moved the goalpost to saying that she should have visited earlier. The chat then pointed out, well, she also did. She also visited in 2021.
Right.
Yeah. So now you're going to move the goalpost to the fact that she took a private jet there? I'm sorry. Do you think that Donald Trump doesn't fly in a private jet that a country that we consider something of an adversary gave him as a gift, which is such an obvious threat to national security that they had to land that private jet and switch him back to Air Force One out of concern of Iran shooting it down because it doesn't have the defense capabilities of the actual private jet that the president is supposed to use, which is made and maintained by the U.S. Air Force? You are not making any sense, dude.
How am I not making sense? I think that I agree with what you just said about Trump. Yeah, that's a joke too.
Then why did you bring up?
I'm not some MAGA guy.
Why did you bring up Kamala Harris's private jet, which I don't even know if that's a legitimate claim? Why does that matter?
Because it's like, how hard is it for her to fucking go there?
She's the vice president.
Over 3 years?
Fuck Taylor Swift, but Kamala Harris as vice president can have a private jet. I'm okay with that.
Of course you are. I mean, if it's anybody Democrat, you'll support it.
Republican or Democrat. If somebody said, did you know that JD Vance flew to an event with a private jet? I'd be like, he's the vice fucking president. That makes sense.
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm saying how hard is it for her to fucking go there? Over 3 years she doesn't go there?
She did twice. What the fuck are you talking about?
2021 and 2024. It's like as soon as it starts and
why does it matter for her to physically be there?
It's just complete... It shows that she completely does not give a shit, especially during those 3 years with the amount of border encounters, especially illegals.
She and Biden pushed for border policy that you yourself said would have been good, that Trump shot down, and that because he shot it down, they weren't able to address this illegal immigration.
Where were the executive actions, though? Where were the executive actions? Where was anything to actually help the border?
Maybe the rest of this call between you and me has been about the fact that Donald Trump abuses his executive action to do things that aren't necessarily his fucking job.
I would agree with that.
Yes, and
Can we go over Kamala Harris's responsibilities with the border and immigration during the vice presidency? Because Caller is completely off base on what her actual job was.
You take it over for a second, Raven.
Yeah.
Raven's my producer. In the chat for Raven.
How you doing, Raven?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
So Kamala Harris was never actually in charge of the border. She was appointed by Joe Biden to go to 3 different countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, to go help the country just kind of have a better quality of life so that people didn't want to leave and come to America. She had nothing to do with stopping immigration, border crossings, any of that.
Why does it matter to you whether or not she visited the border? Like, I'm not understanding, Raven. I'm not understanding what his point is.
I don't get it either, especially when it wasn't even her job.
I think it's important that you show not only that you go there, but how hard is it to go and talk to her job. I understand it wasn't her job, but she's the vice president.
Then why should she go there? I would say the same thing about JD Vance. If
JD Vance is not doing something, or if Trump's golfing when he should be doing other things.
There is going to magically make policy go in place?
No, it's not. But it just shows that you actually.
Then if it wasn't even her job, why is she supposed to be there?
I think that she's inherently involved.
I'm going to let the
border.
caller take into consideration all of the interesting facts that he's learned in the last, half hour or however long he's been on. And I'm just going to read some of the donations because they are piling the fuck up. So you just sit tight for a second, and we can restart the conversation with whatever direction you want when we get back from reading. That Araxis has sent me a couple of donations. I think they might be stale. Sorry if these got read late. Sometimes I get locked in on the conversation, guys. Araxis sent me $2 to say every win he gets chips away at our foundation. And we're talking about all those little unconstitutional things that Trump does. Doesn't matter if 9 out of 10 of them fail. If one of them succeeds, he does another 10 the next week, and then another one of them succeeds. And like that, it's a little bit like saying like, oh, gas prices went up, but now they're going down. Well, they're still higher than they were before. This is still bad. Like these individual, the L's are outnumbered by the wins for Trump, and that's a problem for democracy. So I appreciate Araxis pointing that out. And they sent another $2 to point out that Title 42 expired, dude, which is one of the other things that affected all of this during that time that you don't seem to be recognizing. So thank you, Araxis, for the donations over on Cash App. And over on Venmo, we have David, who has sent his third donation for the day to say, an example is the gerrymandering in between the census to cut out Democratic seats all across the country. My home state, Tennessee, it being an example. Yep, another way he's trying to subvert democracy. I don't know exactly what point in the conversation that came in, but that's David's comment. And Jared sent me $25 to say, remember this guy claimed to be a fence sitter. Sounds like he hates Dems and loves Trump. Yeah, he accused me of saying that the only reason I was okay with Kamala Harris flying a private jet is because she's a Democrat. And I immediately pointed out that if anybody said that to me about J.D. Vance, I would say exactly the same thing. He's the vice president. I don't think that this guy watches my show. I don't think that this guy understands that I don't worship the Democrats. I don't think this guy understands that I'm exceptionally careful to make sure that I don't say anything about the Democrats that I wouldn't also say about the Republicans. Same fucking rules for anybody. If you rape somebody, you are not going to get my endorsement, Plattner, which is why I'm happy that Plattner dropped out, even though that's a fucking L for the Democrats because we might lose a seat about it. I just got more convictions than that. Jaden sent me, what is this? Oh my God, $50. Holy shit. Got some big donations on Venmo today. $50. Hi, Oscar. Been listening for a while and decided it was time to give back. Keep on killing it. Fucking Jaden. I appreciate you so fucking much. And then over on YouTube Super Chat, Tavi sent 5 gift memberships because Sunday evening, which is tonight, we've got the evening show with a special guest who I've actually found it's better to like not announce these things. I'm kind of keeping the guests secret. But anyway, 7 p.m. Central Time is the evening show, which is only on YouTube, so we can get around the filter. And then what happens after that is a members only stream that's on all the platforms if you're a member. So he gifted memberships to people so they can hang out and do the FAQ thing, hang out with me, and chill out and not have a high energy stream like this. Chronos sent $5 to say, if you fall at work and no one is around to hear it, did you actually yell and plane? The answer for me is yes. LOL. Damn, workers not sweeping up well. W Kronos, I hope you're okay. It's kind of inside joke about his workday because Kronos is a frequent enough donor that the regular listeners kind of know what's going on with him day to day. Canadian Princess sent $2 to say, why can't this guy stay on topic? It's all pivots. I agree. We'll see if he picks an interesting topic for us to stay on after I read the donations. Jazz sent $5 to say she wasn't at the border because she was directly reducing immigration by securing financial aid for SA countries with the highest immigration rates. Yeah, she was like those things about like trying to fix like all those problems in other countries that are the actual cause of illegal immigration because people escape those problems. Maybe we spend a little money making those things a little bit better in those countries so people don't have to escape to here as much. But that sounds an awful lot like welfare, and I know that Republicans generally don't like helping people, so that's politically impractical in this climate, unfortunately. But that's what she was trying to do. Thank you for pointing that out, Jazz. Canadian Princess sent another $2 to say, caller can't admit dear leader is wrong. Pure cope. He says he's not a Trumper, but I'm getting Trumpy vibes. 1.20 sent $2 to say W for nincompoop, uses it in a serious conversation. I fucking love the word nincompoop. It's so accurate to describe the type of reasoning that a lot of these callers use. And Cronus sent another $5 to say, finally got a worker, so I get a break 4 hours into my shift. Why does the pro-Trumpers think more about Kamala and Biden than what Trump does? Yeah, I don't know. Especially in consideration of the fact that we found the thing he was upset about is the thing that Trump also fucking did. And Anna Caniac sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, Daily Dono, by the way, can't wait to hop up for friendly time if you ever get that phone line, Oscar. Soon. I might actually go, I'm going to buy another iPhone. I might go do that. Might go do that with Raven right after wrapping the show today during the gap before the evening show because I need to get a physical third phone to run the show from because the two that I currently have don't have the capabilities I need, and I don't want to tie up the primary phone. And Daniela sent me $1 on Cash App to say he think we worship politicians like he does. Well, he says he doesn't worship Trump, but like again, this assumption that I'm going to worship these people. Like I'm highly critical of the Biden administration. I'm highly critical of the fact that he ran again. I'm highly critical about how Democrats have handled the Trump situation in the American political sphere over the last 12 or so years, generally 10 years, whatever it's been since 2016 when Trump first started running, 2015, whenever that was. It's I don't think the caller actually really gets my perspective all that well. But I am going to bring it back to him because I read all the donations. So thanks, everybody. Link tree in the bio for the Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon. Buy Me a Coffee is international. And if you just want to follow me on all the other platforms or follow the backup account, Oskar Quentin 2, let's see. There it is, right down there. You can go do that. And following me in all the places for free helps. I'm really excited to get to 10,000 on YouTube and then eventually 10,000 on both the burner accounts. So if you want to get those burner accounts more healthy, go ahead and get following on there. Okay, sorry for the long ad read. Just lots piled up while we were talking. Johnny, where are we going from here?
Wherever you want to go. Let's leave it. Let's put the ball in your court. I don't know why Carolina keeps mentioning me and shit, saying that I've been in MAGA lives and I'm disgusting. Carolina, I don't know who you are, Carolina. So just stop talking about me in the live and go find something else to do. It's a beautiful Sunday. Go outside and touch grass, please.
I don't know, dude. Just like word of advice, like paying attention to the shit that's getting talked in the chat.
You just won't stop saying my name.
I'm just saying it's a demonstration of your weakness to care what's being said in the chat.
I'm clearly MAGA. Yeah, I'm clearly MAGA. Okay.
Yeah, here you are. Like you have, let's see how many people are watching. There's 300 on YouTube and almost 600 on TikTok. So there's like 900 people who are paying attention to your opportunity to try to convince me of something important that you care about. And you're too busy like talking shit about somebody in a chat who like says they saw you in another live. Like get your priorities in order. You want to talk to Caroline, which you can do by leaving the call and getting in the chat, or do you want to talk to the 900 people that are watching?
Let's do it. Let's do one more. Let's do one more category. You pick it.
No.
Before we move on, Law of the Wild had some amazing statistics in the Discord.
Oh yeah, do you want to pull those up? Where are they?
Right here. Scroll on up. Right there. That's all of her successes while on her duties that Biden appointed her. And then we also have a direct quote from Biden on what her duties are supposed to be.
She said, Biden said, I've asked her, the BP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle, and the countries that help are going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks, stemming the migration to our southern border. Yeah, so they really wanted to address exactly what you and I recognized as like the biggest cause of the illegal immigration. The vice president has agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders. So it's not our full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort. Oh my God, that's so funny because Trump was trying to get Mexico to build the wall, which was fucking nonsense. But this is actually like a diplomatic and sensible way to try to get the other countries to help us and do their fair share. And then there's a list here where we have biggest Northern Triangle business commitments announced through Kamala Harris's initiative. And then there's like 20 countries with like each having like a 9-digit level of commitment here. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Did I get the number of digits right? Yes, that's 9 digits. Yeah, big numbers from companies such as MasterCard, Nespresso, Gap, Pepsi, Columbia. What else is big on this list? Target, Visa. Anyway, so again, like we can move on or stay on this if you want, caller, but I do think it's just good for everybody listening to see that like these claims about them not doing anything about it are just fucking horseshit. But I really want, if you're gonna stay on that.
I'm more concerned with illegal entry into our country, like the actual statistics behind that. So
I'm sorry, were you not listening?
I was listening, but I care more about illegal immigrants entering our country, undocumented and unvetted.
That thing that I just read you,
and then the crime that follows them.
That thing that I just read you was about Biden and Harris's efforts to go to the countries. Figuratively, go to the table.
What did that turn out to?
To stop them from coming here at all.
And what did it result in? Nothing. All we had was more legal immigrants.
Well, the rate of illegal immigration did decrease by the end of Biden's term, so that's also wrong.
Yeah. Why were they doing that? Because the election was coming up.
So because they did something good, it must have been because they were trying to get elected.
Why ignore it for the previous 3 years?
That's a fucking goalpost move. No, dude. If they do something bad, it's their fault. If they do something good, it's because they were trying to get elected. That's disingenuous.
It's clear. It's disingenuous of them to try and act like they care about the border at the very end.
My chat got there a little bit faster than I did. I think I'm going to insist that if you're gonna stay on the show, I think I need you to turn your camera on for a second so we can see who you are. Your teacup. We can't hear you when you leave the app. You got to come back. He's begging ChatGPT for help. Seikyo sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, hey, caller, that private plane is called Air Force Two, and she was on that to preserve the succession of powers and national security reasons. Yeah, again, I was saying there wasn't actually a good claim about the private jet because we do tend to put our leadership on a private jet. Of course, it makes sense that the president flies around on Air Force One. Of course, it makes sense that the vice president, he left, he ran. He a runner and a track star. Funny, he should ask, Northern Triangle encounters decreased by about 21% from fiscal year 21 to 22, and there's a source for that. Dude, Law of the Wild is fucking after it, and the source is from CIS.org. Man, this show is better when Law of the Wild is watching, because if Law of the Wild catches some bullshit that I don't notice, he gets in my Discord and then just starts like sending it to me, and I'm sitting here like, I feel like God. I'm just like, that source, it's here. Law of the Wild sent it to me in the Discord. By the way, everybody, I do try to give a shout out to the Discord anytime it helps me, so I don't look like I'm just that knowledgeable, because I am pretty knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff, but a lot of the time it's the Discord helping me out. So I do always like to acknowledge that I'm gesturing over to the right side of the screen where the sources fill up to better prove that the caller's wrong. But this isn't about me versus the caller. This is about the truth versus the claims of the caller, and I'm the vessel through which that truth is delivered. I happen to be good at hosting, but the Oskar Quentin show is a lot bigger than me. I'll take a moment while are we waiting for callers? No, but I'll take a moment before I invite Ben in to say we have a physical human being on the other side of the room whose job it is to keep track of this stuff. Raven's the reason I caught wind of Law of the Wild suggestion, because there's so much for me to pay attention to while I'm running this show. And I have fucking ADHD. So when I'm locked in on a conversation with somebody, I'm locked the fuck in. And Raven might need to come fucking physically shake me. So we have Raven doing that some days. We have Jesse doing it other days. And then we have an entire Discord full of people. So the show has fucking paid employees who help me with this shit and an immense number of volunteers. So I don't care if I need help from people to look good in these arguments, because it's not fucking about me. I'm just the face. I've made something bigger than myself here. I'm just the guy in the chair doing the yapping. So fucking thanks everybody for making this show as effective as it is. We're gonna talk to Ben, and we're gonna see if he has a sensible claim about anything at all. How old are you, Ben?
I'm 19.
You like Trump?
I would still vote for Trump over Kamala, but no, I do not like Trump very much.
Okay, that's fair to say. I think that this is the like his character's bad, but I like him as president type of argument. Am I right there?
I only really like him for certain. Well, yeah, I think his character is pretty atrocious, but for certain social, more conservative opinions on social characteristics, like say abortion, or like transgenderism with kids and gender affirming care.
I don't like the word transgenderism. Are you aware that generally people consider that to be a term that was kind of invented by people who don't like transgender individuals, and that using it is just kind of a little dog whistly, and there's better ways to refer to it?
Are you referring to like gender dysphoria, or I'm not sure what another term would be?
There's lots of different ways to refer to it. I like to say trans rights or the rights of transgender persons, but the word transgenderism, specifically that one, has a pretty nasty negative connotation. It's like I said, it's a little dog whistly. People who are affected by these issues, and people who study these issues, and people who advocate for the rights of people who face these issues consider that to be a word that's like, I don't think that you're necessarily hateful for using it. I think that the people who put it in your ears are hateful, and you've fallen for it. And I'm just informing you that it's really not the right word to use to talk about this stuff.
Sure, I don't mean to be triggering in any way. I would say I'm
part of this is learning the discourse, and if you make a mistake like that and you just are willing to be educated on it, that's great. That puts you in better standing with me on this topic than most of my callers.
Sure, yeah, I'd say the biggest deal for me though, it would be abortion.
Okay. You want to talk about abortion?
Sure.
Why is abortion an important issue to you?
Because I think the unjustified killing of a human being is something that is like the most rightful. Do you want me to turn my camera on, or?
The chat might. I don't know. I haven't asked you yet.
Oh, it like came on. It said I was invited or something.
Oh, one of the mods must have invited you. That wasn't my decision.
All right, no worries. I'd say I'm
doing a rule these days where when somebody gets to being bigoted, I make them turn their camera on, because it just gets rid of all the trolls who are just being like faceless cowards. But I will say, I'll resist my chat a little bit. You were receptive to me pointing out that transgenderism is not a good word to use, and we haven't actually gotten to your reasons yet. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and it sounds like you're willing. So we'll do that if we need to. But yeah,
sure. Yeah, I would just say like, I think if I could make a law, I would think the most important thing would be, you can't murder someone, right? Like that should be an unalienable right, the right to not be murdered.
I can get behind that. I don't define like first trimester fetuses as a thing that can be murdered or have rights. That's my position.
Do you hold a 20 to 24 week
something like that? Yeah.
Sure.
Exact language of that policy, I would trust the doctors with. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but round about 20 to 24 weeks is when the neurologists are pretty sure that the unborn child develops what we think is necessary for suffering, which is the only thing that I value. And until an organism can suffer, I don't value it at all. I don't think it has any rights. We may as well be talking about a brick.
Sure. So you only value suffering. Is this active suffering, or can this be because what's the difference between, say, a fetus in the first trimester, dying or have ceasing the right to life versus someone who's not conscious and, instant death? Is there any difference there? Say someone in a coma.
It matters to me greatly whether or not the organism has in the past ever had the capacity to suffer, because then we can start thinking about what their hopes and dreams were. Like somebody might have a medical directive where after they've lost the ability to suffer, maybe because they're brain dead, they have a will. And we all recognize that it's a good policy to be able to write a healthcare directive and have it followed. Nobody on earth wants to be at least in my, from my perspective, I wouldn't want to live in a world where my healthcare directive wasn't going to be followed because I can no longer suffer. And the reason because that's so important to me is why I said very carefully what I said is that the organism has never been able to suffer. So if the organism has been able to suffer, it has had that sort of experience, it has had hopes and dreams about the world, then we can talk about what those hopes and dreams are. But come such a point that they have never existed, I value a fetus that young in an ethical sense just the same as I do at the moment of conception, and importantly, right before the moment of conception, because we're just talking about metabolically alive cells, sperms and eggs, and then they become the zygote, the embryo, I forget the order of all of them. There's a little sphere stage, and then it turns into a little ball with the hole through it, and one becomes your mouth, one becomes your anus. None of that is interesting to me. No suffering happens there. I don't think it makes an ethical difference to what life on Earth is like for anybody if a baby is aborted then, or if the sex didn't happen in the first place. I don't see the difference.
Sure. So just to clarify your position, you value past subjective experience over future subjective experience in a form of sentience. Mm-hmm. So say, okay, you have two choices to save someone. A 90-year-old with cancer who is going to die tomorrow, or a 1-year-old that has 89 years of life ahead of it.
Both of them meet the burden for what I would, for having the sort of value where suddenly, this is an ethical consideration. I value each of their perspectives. I then need to consider other things for weighing the two of them, because it's not like it's a meter that's fuller for one person versus the other. Both of them have the sort of sentience history that I'm concerned about, which puts them on the table for ethical dilemmas, so we can talk about what would be better in that particular trolley problem. They're qualified to be a part of the discussion, whereas if I was choosing among the three of them and one of them was an unborn baby, I would go, that one, easy.
Sure, yeah, but we always value our lives with a future experience. If you were to die immediately, that would be a very bad thing, right? You've lived a past life, but you have a future to that. I don't know why a future subjective experience would not be valuable to you, right? A sperm does not have a future subjective experience.
Right. It's not valuable to me.
Yeah, exactly. Because given time and given its own resources, it will not form a subjective experience, right? But an embryo after conception, who's a growing and alive organism, who's unique, that thing will grow to have a future subjective experience.
But I could say that me and some hypothetical girl, call her Sam or whatever, right? Me and Sam could have a baby, but if we choose not to, we are preventing all the potential happiness that baby could have had. Maybe I never go on the date with Sam. Maybe it never happens. What difference does it fucking make?
Yeah, so
how is that different than an abortion in terms of suffering, which is the only thing I care about?
Yeah, so that's an active, there's passive and active. So if you choose to not, engage in acts that will produce a child, okay, if that's the case, then whatever. That's a passive choice.
I don't care about passive and active. Why does that matter? We're talking about whether or not suffering happens.
I don't think. Well, would you not say that
maybe I do go on the date with Sam. Maybe we do have intercourse, but I actively choose to wear a condom. Are you opposed to contraception? That's an active thing that prevents all this life from happening.
No, that's not active. That's passive, right? Because
That's fucking horseshit. Nope. You're picking and choosing what's active and passive, whether or not it supports your argument. It's obviously active to have sex and actively add a step like putting a condom on. That's ridiculous. You feel bro.
So if you let an embryo naturally develop, right, and you're not actively doing anything to stop that, like say an abortion, then a child will come out of that, right? If you have sex, or sorry, intercourse, I don't know what the okay word would be.
You can say sex on my show. I'm just being a little bit technical.
Sure. If you engage in an act that does something and an embryo is not produced, then there's no life that's being formed there. Right?
I want you to go. No. We're breezing past the fact that you said that if we have an evening where me and hypothetical whoever are going to have sex, and we're talking about actions. You said active versus passive things that prevent the baby from being born. Adding a step. Adding a condom to the equation that prevents the baby from being born. You argued that that's not active, and I called nonsense, and you ignored the fact that I called bullshit on that. Are you really going to sit here and argue that? Putting a condom on is a passive act, not an active one?
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I don't mean like active I'm saying in the sense that like an embryo is going to come to fruition, right? Like as an adult human, like obviously every act you do, I'm talking of something you initiate versus something that's not initiated.
Right.
Like
right.
once
I'm talking about initiating putting the condom on to prevent this chain of events that started with intercourse and ends with a baby. Because now you're saying that you like, because the conception hasn't happened, you're not interrupting something that started. That's a goalpost move. Because a second ago you said that putting a condom on isn't active, it's passive. Are you going to recant that? Because that's obvious nonsense.
Sure, we can recant it for the sake of the argument. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Recant it for the sake of the argument. Recant it if you think it's nonsense to say. I don't want you to recant something for the sake of argument, because that's just moving on without actually addressing it and getting you to understand that what you said is nonsense. You're saying that interrupting the already conceived baby is now what you care about. I called that a goalpost move, which explains away the fact that it doesn't matter that putting on the condom is obviously, if we understand the English language, an active thing to do as opposed to a passive thing to do. Are you now just retreating from your claim that putting a condom on is passive and that's why it's okay?
Sure, yeah, I probably put up a wrong goalpost initially. I'm saying like
which is a really, really clever way of admitting that you're moving the goalpost.
Well, I'm sorry. I never meant to argue that. I'm telling you that was not something I wanted to argue. You can concede it. That's fine. I appreciate that. That's honest of you. So we can move on. I'm saying you
only care about if you interrupt the pregnancy after conception, right?
Yeah, because left to its natural processes, like there's obviously like once
you're making an argument from nature. Should we leave all cancer diagnoses to their natural processes? Should we not intervene with that?
Do you mind if I just get a few sentences out before? Sure. So like once the egg is fertilized, we have a significant moment in time where now that organism is alive. So like whether or not you think it's a human deserving of rights, like that is a specific moment in time that before that it is not alive, and after that it is alive. So like using moment of conception is a good thing to use.
It's alive before conception.
What'd you say?
Alive in the way that the word is meaningful to me when we're talking about like very small things like, balls of cells and stuff. Like, would you argue that like in a metabolic sense, a sperm is alive?
I would say it's something called it's more like an alive organism. Like it's a unique organism, right? Like a sperm is not unique.
Well, here, so let's say that if I had a vial full of sperm and we were going to use it to inseminate somebody, and then we had a second vial of sperm that was left out in the sun last week, which of them contains sperm that's going to be viable?
Sure, the one that's not left in the sun.
Yeah, I would say the one that still has sperm that are alive, right? Would that be a fair way to say that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think that sperm are alive. I think eggs are alive. I think that if we saw a cessation of metabolic function in either, it would be sensible to call them metabolically dead, as a biologist would, and nothing changes at the moment of conception about that fact.
Well, yeah, sure. Again, it's a conjunct, so it's not just being alive, but it's also being a unique organism where the parts of the organism... So now you're moving the
goalpost further, you're adding conditions to keep escaping my argument, because you recognize that this aliveness is not unique to the moment of conception, which makes me question that, why did you bring it up at all, given that it clearly isn't important to the argument? You're now moving on to it being a unique organism. So we've gone from passive versus active acts during intercourse on to whether or not the egg is alive, and now you're throwing that out maybe and moving on to it being unique, which I could then point out about that cancer cells are unique. They have unique genetic mutations. Like, unique doesn't mean shit to me. So we can move on to that if that's the next goalpost.
No, I'm not separating these things. I'm saying that they're a conjunct. I wasn't done speaking. Again, I kind of asked if I could just like have a moment. Like you're saying that the moment of conception, like nothing specific and interesting has happened. Like, is that actually what you're trying to claim? Like, I'm saying that it's alive and that it's unique, that it's not just DNA from the father and not just DNA from the mother,
Okay,
and that it is something combined. Like the DNA is fused.
Yes, and I immediately gave another example of something that is alive and unique, which is the first cell where the mutation happens in a cancer diagnosis. The technology it would be to be able to detect that when it happens and get rid of it, because it's just one cell. But we don't notice cancer until it's bigger, and then we have to terminate it or it will kill the host, and that's bad, even though the cancer meets the conditions that you just said. It's unique and it's alive.
Okay, is there a difference between cancer and an embryo that grows up to be a living person? Like, I honestly don't understand.
In terms of what to answer your question directly, in terms of what I value for assessing ethical conundrums, which is suffering, no, there is not a difference. Which is why it's okay to get rid of both if the person whose body it's in doesn't want it there.
Okay,
the burden is on you to tell me what that difference is, and we're 3 layers deep on moving the goalpost.
Sure. Okay. Maybe we can backtrack a little bit here.
Maybe. I know you want to backtrack because your script doesn't have this part.
Yeah, sure. I haven't had anyone bring up, like cancer being like unique.
Meeting the conditions that you require in order to protect unborn children. You haven't considered
because cancer cells can't develop future sentience. Like I value future sentience.
And I don't care why does that matter? Because there are sperm inside me and eggs inside a woman that you love that could become a person, and I'm sure you don't value that potential person.
Yeah, because until the moment of conception, there's something that active has to happen to interrupt that, right?
That's also true of cancer, though. That's where we're at in the conversation.
How is that true of cancer? How can cancer develop future sentience?
Oh, it can't develop future sentience. No, but why do you value future sentience when the sperms that are in my body and the eggs that are in the woman that you love are potentially something that could have future sentience? Because they could. And I'm just not interested in what happens at the moment of conception, especially in consideration of the fact that if you study the biology around conception, there's something like 135 microscopic level steps that are required for a conception to be successful, and you'd have to really start getting down into the nitty gritty of trying to figure out which one of them matters. The thing is, I just don't think any of them fucking matter, especially in consideration of the fact that the female body will just naturally abort some of those fertilized eggs that don't take up to the uterine lining or whatever the fuck it is. Help me in the chat if somebody knows women's biology a little bit better than me. I don't actually need to know the women's biology all that well, because what I value is suffering, and I know about when the suffering can begin, and until then I don't care whether it's going to be a person or a cancerous tumor. It's not something that should have an opinion on the matter, because it has the sentience of a rock, which makes it the right of the person whose body it's in to decide if they want to get rid of it.
Sure. I'm curious, what is your definition of suffering?
Suffering is complicated to define because consciousness and phenomenology are difficult to define. I think that it's obvious, though, and I'd be willing to be contested and go down the philosophical rabbit hole on this. I think it's obvious to say that consciousness is required for suffering, because for me, consciousness is any sort of phenomenology, which is like the philosopher's term for what experience is like for beings, like the fact that I have this first person experience of like my vision and all my other senses, like that description is phenomenology. I think that's what consciousness is. I'm kind of with people like Daniel Dennett on that. And because I think that those are prerequisites for that experience to be a bad one, because that's what suffering is if the phenomenology that you're experiencing is bad, is unpleasant, is unwanted, that's what suffering is. So it gets really muddy exactly what that means in terms of what state of consciousness is suffering. We could argue about that for days, but out of an abundance of caution, we've just said if you can't have consciousness, you definitely can't have suffering. And the neurologists and the people who do fMRIs of developing fetuses and all this interesting neurology and early childhood development work and stuff about understanding the structures in the brain that produce consciousness, we're just pretty fucking sure, according to these people who spend their lives getting medical degrees and science degrees to study this shit, that the stuff that's necessary in the brain to allow consciousness to happen isn't there at 20 to 24 weeks. So I then, through the transitive property, can say that because that's a necessary component of what's needed for suffering to happen, then at that point suffering isn't happening.
Yeah, but you said that if you can't have consciousness, but fetuses before 24 weeks can have consciousness eventually, right? So like if I
don't care about eventually, because the sperms in my body and the eggs in your wife or whoever it is you love could potentially someday develop consciousness if I had sex with her, and that doesn't mean that you want that. That doesn't mean that you want to protect that. You're moving back to a previous goalpost instead of addressing everything that I just said.
Okay, but I think I'm drawing a difference here. So like, if you can have consciousness, like a sperm by itself cannot have consciousness, right? A fetus by itself can have consciousness, given time and no active.
But why does that matter to you? Like, why is that a good system of rules for the world that will make good outcomes for people? I think that actually weighing suffering that is happening instead of imagining suffering that could happen is way better. We can stop talking about abortion. If that's the difference, your ethics are bad.
Okay, let me pull to something else then. Say you have someone who is not conscious, right? Like they can't process pain. Like why can't you stab that person? And like obviously their body, like their neurons aren't firing to the point where they can process pain. What if it's not unwanted though? Like would you be fine with that?
I mean, that's like an ethically hairy situation. Are you talking about like a consenting person doing something bad to their body?
I'm saying, say someone's in say someone's in a coma, right? And they're going to wake up and say 9 months, right? And they're not conscious and they haven't been conscious, and say that they lost their memories because they hit their head really hard. And so all of their previous past conscious experience is all gone, right?
No,
so
I already answered this earlier, because even if you meet all the conditions of them never being able to have another thought ever again and all of that stuff, we still get back to the fact that for the rest of us who are here, it is unpleasant to live in a world where your wishes are not going to be followed after you lose consciousness. That's why we have wills. If you're saying that doesn't matter, you're saying a person's last will and testament doesn't matter. Is that what you're saying?
Are you saying that will has to come from a conscious area? Like, do you think that
yes, for a person to have will, they have to have these sorts of conditions that I care about. And we talked earlier about the fact that those sorts of conditions exist. Those conditions never have existed for a fetus that's being aborted before 20 to 24 weeks. So with your example, it suggests to me that if you're actually going to use that as a counterexample that shows that you're right in this conversation and I'm wrong, you therefore must not value a person's last will and testament, because most of the time when a will is being read, the person who wrote it is already in the ground and can't experience anything.
Sure. I'm asking you though, do you think that someone that doesn't have like a conscious experience yet does not have any type of will? Like, does that 20-year-old, does that 20-week fetus, you think that 20-week fetus wants to die?
No, I don't think
you think it has no want to live. Why is it growing then?
Why does the tree grow?
Why is it not dying? Because the tree has life processes. It doesn't want to die. The tree would never exist.
Are you a pacifist for trees, or is it murder to cut down trees now?
We're evolutionary beings.
Yes, this is the appeal to nature. Nature's a cold bitch, and she doesn't care about you or me. I care about suffering, so I try to write policies and promote policies that prevent suffering.
Why is suffering such a bad thing if it's just unwanted? If we're just evolutionary beings, like what if my success exists off your suffering? What if you need to suffer so I exist?
You are gish galloping and flailing. What are we talking about?
No, you're telling me that you think a fetus under 20 weeks has no will to live?
I want you to answer the question I said that you ran away from about how, based on your argument that you're making to me right now to say that abortion is bad, are you suggesting that we shouldn't then value the last will and testament of people?
Sure. Yeah, I think to a certain degree, if it's a reasonable thing, like obviously I'm not going to have a parade with your dead body and do everything that you possibly want me to. But if it's a reasonable request.
Earlier in the conversation, we already covered the fact that I put a different set of rules on things that have had consciousness and maybe won't in the future, because we as people who have been consciousness have been conscious in our lives have opinions about what it's like to live in a world where the will of a person who's had consciousness is not respected. But I don't think that reasoning, I don't think that ethical reasoning that we apply to a person who's in a coma or a person who's brain dead or a person who's died and is having their will, having their state divided up in the way that they wanted. I don't think that ethical reasoning applies at all to a fetus before 20 or 24 weeks for the very same reason that it doesn't apply to a tree. A tree wants to live in the evolutionary sense. It evolved to live. Is it immoral to cut the tree down?
No. because I don't value trees in the same sense that I value humans.
Right. So it's not about potential for life, which is this other thing. Like I'm playing move the goalpost whack-a-mole. All of my argumentation has worked. So you moved on to potential life, which then, much like when I said that your earlier argument also worked for cancer cells because they're unique human life, you now have this thing about this ability to grow, which applies to trees and every single thing on life. It applies to mosquitoes. It applies to malaria viri. It applies to
again. That's not me moving the goalpost. That was you saying that was us talking about suffering and you saying how if you do not have consciousness or you don't have a will to live, like you have nothing that can be violated, right? But
so here's I think I've talked to you in enough circles about this, and I'm sorry for the donations piling up. I'm just really locked in on this conversation, everybody, because this is the thing that I get a lot of flack for not getting to, because I realize that most of my callers don't give a shit. We're sitting here, arguing about whether or not the suffering matters. I seem to care about suffering. You seem to not care so much, but we've been talking a lot about the fetus. You do recognize that the person who the fetus is inside stands to suffer greatly, right?
In what way? Like just by the pregnancy?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You can consider that a certain amount of suffering.
Sure, you can consider that a certain amount of suffering. You're going to sit here and defend a thing that has never suffered tooth and nail, but the thing that is suffering, a woman, a human, like an actual human being with thoughts and feelings and cares about all this stuff we're arguing about, all this thing about whether or not a person can have hopes and dreams and can have the life they want to live and all that stuff. Like, the woman actually has all that shit, and she might be kicking and screaming and dying and begging for medical care, and you're saying no because of the potential for that in a ball of cells.
Yeah, so it's a growing consensus that abortion is never medically necessary. You can just do a cesarean section instead.
No, whoa. I'm not going to let that shit on my show. What the fuck are you talking about? People have died because of the policies that have been put in place after Roe v. Wade. And you're going to sit here and tell me that there are not women who have died waiting for care in Texas because the care that they needed to survive a pregnancy where the child was not viable? You're going to tell me that shit didn't happen? You're going to call into my show that uneducated about the medicine in this and that unfucking caring about what happened to those fucking people and their families who had to fucking grieve them? You, sir, are a monster.
Okay, see, I never said that. I said that it's a growing consensus that abortion, specifically the termination. Here, can I just finish what I'm saying? Because you just went on a rant that addressed nothing of what I just said. I did not say that. You can
go on your rant after you turn the camera on. That's when we're doing it. We can do the rant with the camera on. I'll invite you to turn it on.
Yeah, so I did not say that people have died because of lack of abortion care, but if abortion is specifically the termination of a fetus, I said that abortion is never medically necessary. It's a reason why you could not do a cesarean section. Like if you're talking about a birth in a fallopian tube,
are you aware of ectopic pregnancies?
Yeah, so there's no chance that birth could ever be a success. I would not consider that an abortion.
Oh, you're being a fucking, this is just nonsense Philbro shit that you're just defining something that obviously is an abortion as something that isn't. That's fucking ridiculous.
Hey, this is producer Raven. An abortion is a termination of pregnancy, not a termination of a fetus.
Yeah, if we're going to go by actual definitions, technically a cesarean section birth is a type of abortion, just according to the medical terminology.
Sure, yeah, I would say that the types of...
I'm going to take the floor back for a moment. Thank you for turning your camera on. You can stay in the corner if you want. I will say that I spend a lot of time on this show talking about the difference between descriptivism and prescriptivism. Hello, Noodle. The difference is that descriptivists think that we should just look at how people use words and then describe what they mean based on that. And prescriptivists say that we have to just decide what the terms mean and then use them correctly. Neither are right, because it matters greatly what the domain is. Because here out in the court of public opinion, out on the street, having a conversation in the bar, really, if you're going to try to speak English effectively, you have to just use words in ways that are meaningful to people. That's why at the beginning of conversations, I have to ask people what they mean by their definitions. I'm often happy to use their definitions, even if my dog's going to bark while I explain why I do it. But there are certain domains in which prescriptivism is important because it's so goddamn important to be exact. And one of those fields is the medical field, which is why one of the biggest things that people have to do when they go to school for decades, or for north of a decade, to become a doctor, to become the sorts of people who get to perform abortions, who we trust with that role in our society, they recognize the prescriptive value of definitions. So for you to sit here and be a descriptivist about what the word abortion means based on your feelings, instead of a prescriptivist, as is required to be sensible in the medical field, to make sure that one doctor knows exactly what another doctor is saying, one doctor understands exactly what the findings of of the scientists are that affect the decisions that they make. It's a domain in which prescriptivism is absolute. I will argue that until the day I die, and I'm a prescriptivist about what the word abortion means for that reason, and you, sir, are simply wrong about what the word abortion means. Can you admit that?
So sure, if the definition strictly of abortion is the termination of just a pregnancy, then I would say some abortions would be okay, because obviously with the cesarean section, I would be completely fine with an abortion happening in that sense, right? Say if it's an ectopic pregnancy where the abortion or where the fetus can no longer be viable and there's nothing you can do to save that child, then again, sure, that's an abortion I would be okay with. But you would agree there's certain definitions that like when I say abortion, I mean abortion that specifically kills the fetus, or if the fetus has no chance of life. Like you would say that there's no definitions of words that you would disagree with.
No, but the reason that Philbros like yourself shouldn't be making these sorts of policies instead of the fucking doctors who study this is because you'll have a situation where a woman gets in a car crash and she's pretty far along and it's not certain what the answer to that consideration is. And you're sitting here and saying that any possible viability for the fetus is to be weighed more than the life of the mother, which is fucking absurd in a basic trolley problem sort of sense. And the exact viability is going to be unique to the case of that trauma, which I would trust a fucking trauma doctor to assess instead of you from your armchair from the comfort of your own home, where I would guess a woman has never been.
Well, sure, but the whole point of doctors is that they're trying to save both lives, right? So say it's like, so you would say that,
and you're sitting here and telling me that you are better at making these sorts of assessments than the doctors themselves are, which is nonsense and dangerous for women, because if we let assholes like yourself make those sorts of determinations, we end up with situations where the doctors can clearly see, because of their expertise, what's best for protecting suffering from happening in the world, but they go, oh, some stupid fucking law got written because Philbros took over the fucking government and made up a bunch of bullshit about how we should give medical care to women. So we can't do this obviously necessary thing because it didn't satisfy the definitions of some asshole Philbro on the internet who didn't even know the definition of the word abortion at the beginning of the conversation. It's dangerous to, by law, create policies around medical care. If we had a heart treatment, like for like people who have heart disease that had a failure rate where we went, oh no, like this is bad, and then somebody got really concerned about it and made a law that made that type of heart treatment illegal, then we'd have a problem where new heart treatments would come along that would technically meet the definition of that particular ailment, and doctors wouldn't be allowed to perform it. And that sort of thing stymies the sort of progress that I care most about in the world. And the fact that you don't recognize that is just a demonstration of the privilege you have as somebody who will never in your life have to deal with any of this shit because you lack the hardware. Also, okay, I would argue that maybe if you had empathy, you'd have to deal with it, but you don't have that either. So maybe I have to deal with it a little bit because I have fucking empathy for these human beings who are suffering.
Sure. I mean, you said a lot. I get a few like sentences out and you never let me respond to anything. And then you just insult me over and over again. I don't think that's a great way to have a productive conversation.
I think we've had a productive enough conversation for the world to learn it's acceptable for me to treat you in that way.
I would disagree, but I'll respond to what you're saying. So again, obviously with like medical things like abortion, absurdly complicated, right? Like there's probably not one doctor on the planet that would know the right thing to do in every situation. But you would say a fetus at 40 weeks who can suffer, you would consider that a life. Yeah. Could I just have like a short response? Yes. Yep. So like, if there was a woman who got in a car crash and has a 40-week fetus, then what is the doctor going to try to do? You're always trying to save all lives possible.
Whatever the doctor thinks is fucking best, because they spend so much more of their professional life studying making ethical decisions than politicians do.
Sure. So what's the code that they go by, though? That they need to save all lives possible. It doesn't matter if it's a guy that just murdered a bunch of kids.
Right. Right. And they can consider that when they make those sorts of decisions. But you, with the complete lack of expertise that you have around this, think that for some reason you have a better way to draw the lines in the way that in edge cases we often have to. That's ridiculous, dude. You're being pompous in a way that is causing massive amounts of suffering to happen in the world. And you don't care about that suffering because of some particular set of definitions you have around what human life can be. This is the most thorough destruction of any argument for abortion I've ever had. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, so you would say that at 40 weeks, there's no line that you could ever draw, like with all of these educated people have and these doctors that could put in their own information.
Yeah, car crashes and trauma and things like that. No, I'm going to keep interrupting you because I see the way that you're trying to get...
2 sentences in. I let you talk as much as you want. I'm trying to be really respectful.
I'm really steamrolling because you've done some really seriously disrespectful for women and suffering beings in this country.
My dog is even upset. I'm just curious. What if I said that's disrespectful? I'm genuinely curious.
It is disrespectful disrespectful of you to not recognize the expertise of people who spend their lives studying the ethics.
Who said I'm not respecting that? I would never not go to a doctor's opinion. Like, you would have to get doctors.
Right. And what I was about to say, what I was just trying to steamroll you to say is that you are sitting here acting like you have some sort of God view of what the options available to a doctor might be, when trauma is unique. It takes expertise to make executive decisions in the moment, and the doctor can't make executive decisions about what's best based on what's happening on the operating table in front of them. If people like you take that executive authority away by giving it to the government, you wouldn't want a doctor to say, no, I can't try to save you because the lawman says that I can't, because he doesn't fucking understand medicine or ethics. You don't want that for your body. You're not up against that. And if you were, I'm certain you would change your fucking mind. It's because you're not up for that. You don't have to fucking worry about it.
Well, that's just completely not true. There's probably the exact same population, maybe slightly less of women that would hold the same position I do. Trying to draw a line that like all women would support abortion that's just not a good argument at all.
I don't think I fucking said anything that had to do with anything you just said, dude. What are you talking about?
You were just referring to me, if I were a woman and I could suffer in this way, that I would hold a different opinion, which is obviously not true.
Yeah, I've talked to plenty of women who think the way that you do, and it breaks my heart. I think that if you were a woman and the doctor was telling you that you were going to die because the law says he can't treat you, that is the point at which you would change your mind.
I think there's a really simple...
short-sighted.
Sure, I think there's a really simple thing that you could put out as a law that doctors should respect and try to save both lives. You have all of the assumptions about my position, and like you assume the worst out of all these things that I haven't even said. But like 100%, I value the mother's life, and I would honestly value the mother's life over the fetus. Like, I value different people's lives differently. Like, I value a 2-year-old kid more than I value an 80-year-old who's going to die tomorrow, right? Like, I place different lives, but I do think all right to life, or everyone has a right to life and should not be killed, right? So there's something so simple that you could put out.
Everybody has a right to life, and nobody should. Wait, hold on. Everybody has a right to life, and nobody should be killed. So causing death is never a solution to any sort of. Are you a pacifist?
No. So like right to life in a certain way, like obviously self-defense or certain things. I'm talking more like murdering, like an unjustified killing, right?
Right. No one should be unjustifiedly So we're talking about whether or not the termination of a human life is justified. We're sitting here quibbling over the word justified. So if I'm right, then my version is justified. If you're right, then your version is justified. Which is why sitting here talking about what murder is just semantics to get away from the fact that your approach to this is obviously bereft of empathy for women.
What does this have to do with empathy of women? Like I'm telling you, I want to save both lives. How is this confusing in any way?
I'm sorry.
What is the nuance on trying to protect both lives?
I made a broad accusation about your approach to the topic of abortion, and you just said, "What does this have to do with empathy for women?" I'm sorry. Is this a joke?
I just said that I want to save both lives. What is my lack of empathy for women stemming from?
You just said that you couldn't understand how the empathy for women is relevant to this conversation.
I did not say that.
What would you mean to say?
And saying I have no empathy for women. I'm saying what you just said. What does that have to do with my lack of empathy for women? Me saying that I want to save both lives, and that if there is some crazy nuanced case where there's some trauma car accident and that the fetus has to, maybe it's like a 2-minute thing and they just have to kill the fetus.
Ask a woman. Make no sense. Ask a woman who has gone through one of these situations to give a description of what happened, and then tell her that it wasn't a nuanced case.
I just said that there can be a nuanced case. Like, do you listen to anything I just said?
Right, but I'm saying that most of the cases are nuanced because the people we're talking about are fucking adults that suffer. Not always adults.
You think most abortions are nuanced?
I think if you asked a woman for her story, yeah, there'd be some nuance to what happened to her, because human lives are complicated.
That has to do with trauma and doctors not knowing how to keep a fetus alive?
Could have to do with anything. It could have to do with the upbringing that led her to make the sort of mistakes that she made to land herself pregnant in a situation where she has no ability to care for a child.
What does that have to do with the nuance of the doctor's procedure on whether or not to do an abortion?
You're limiting this discussion of nuance to the edge cases when I'm broadening it and saying that there's nuance everywhere that you can't see because you have no fucking empathy for women.
No, I'm asking you, where's the nuance procedurally for the doctor who is giving the abortion, who could either give an abortion or give a C-section? Like, whether there's a financial outward thing going on here or anything. What is the nuance? Like, is she telling all of this in an essay to the doctor, and that's gonna change the doctor's procedure?
Yes.
That's gonna change the doctor's procedure on whether or not to give an abortion or do a C-section.
Doctors consider the opinions of their patients when they are making decisions about how to care for them. Because
I'm saying at 40 weeks, if you
bringing up examples that to you are not nuanced. For you, it's black and white. Either take her to the courtyard, Raven. I'm sorry. I'm cooking away on here. Sorry for the background noise, everybody. My dog's having a fit today. Maybe it's because you can tell that I'm deeply offended by the way that this caller's behaving on my show. But if you are going to limit every conversation about this to a black and white case where it's obvious that the fetus should have been saved or shouldn't have been saved because of the trauma, what I'm pointing out to you is that you are not God. You are not Laplace's demon. You are not a doctor. You are not even a very good philosopher. You are something less. You are a Philbro who thinks that you care and value these things in a way that's sensible, even though time and time again, for Jesus Christ, how fucking long have you been connected? For 37 minutes. I don't even know how many times you have moved the goalpost, but you have not presented me a single argument for your side of this case where I haven't immediately dismantled it in a way that caused you to move the goalpost to somewhere else, and then you ran out of places to move the goalpost, so you started moving it back to places it was at the beginning of the conversation. And a responsible person who values their intellectual integrity at this point in a conversation would simply admit that they are wrong.
Let me ask you a very simple question. Again, like, I just want some yes or no question. Like, you've had 37 minutes to rant over me. I just want 2 minutes where I can ask you a string of questions. You value a fetus at 30 weeks, right? Like, that should not, in most cases, that should not be aborted, correct?
30 weeks?
Sure, yes. Like, is that a life worth, like that can experience suffering in your opinion?
I actually think probably not, but because the structures exist that make it the answer maybe, we got to be careful and go back earlier and say no, 20 to 24 weeks. So to be technical, I think probably no, but probably is not good enough. It's definitely no at 20 weeks.
No. I'm saying, okay, say a fetus at 40 weeks.
40? Hold on. Let me cross out my 30. 40.
Yeah, should a fetus at 40 weeks, in your view, be able to be aborted for every reason?
No.
Okay, no. So, if there is a woman... What?
Never argued that. That 40
I'm not
weeks,
saying
that's
you did.
after... Wait, hold on. How many months is that, dude? Do some math.
Oh, that's more than 9. Yeah, that's 9
what the
times.
Fuck,
yeah,
dude?
whatever.
What the fuck is this? I said no so confidently without even considering that was more than 9 months.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because I said no for 30, and then you changed it to 40, and I thought, well, that's bigger, so the answer is obviously still going to be no. I didn't even fucking consider that that's fucking longer than 9 months.
Yeah, we can go with 30 if you want to
Hold on,
cross
you know
off
what?
again.
Cross it out. I'm going to switch to a different color crayon.
Great. 30. So,
30.
If there is a woman who has a fetus, okay, and C-section is viable, why is there any reason that an abortion should happen where a C-section could happen instead? Is that a law that you would worth writing? Because if you value a 30-week fetus that should not be killed, is there any reason why there should not be a law that, if all the nuances are considered, that the doctor should try to save both lives, and instead of doing an abortion where you're specifically killing the fetus, you do a C-section?
I think this is a straw man. Because, yeah, if there's a reason a pregnancy needs to end at 30 weeks, we should try to save the fetus. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're fine. Okay, so then what was your entire last 15 minutes of argumentation on all this, like the nuance of this trauma and all this thing? If it's possible to save the fetus life past 24 weeks, you just went on this.
No. This is the problem with Philbros. You don't recognize the difference between practical possibility and logical possibility.
No, all I asked if that's a law you'd be willing to write.
I'm going to explain why this. I am going to explain why this line of reasoning.
A yes or no. This isn't something that's complicated.
If you think it should be a yes or no, you're falling into the trap that I said earlier you were constantly doing, which is assessing that every single question here is going to necessarily be a yes or no in black and white thinking. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And what you're doing is saying that because there's a logical possibility of the fetus surviving, that therefore it must be the ethical thing to weigh every considerable possible way to save that fetus in complete disregard for the suffering of the mother. And the reason that is nonsense is because of the difference between a practical possibility and a logical possibility. It is a logical possibility that every American who votes in November will vote blue and the entire government will be blue. That's logically possible. Do you recognize that?
Sure.
It's a mathematical possibility that everybody would just go do that. Do you think that that's a practical possibility that we should take actions based on the likelihood of?
No.
Okay, so just because it's logically possible for a particular fetus to survive at 30 weeks because fetuses have survived at 30 weeks, that does not mean that is a practical consideration that the doctor should look at. Do you recognize that?
Okay, so you're talking about a non-0% chance. The chance that a fetus is going to survive after 30 weeks is like a 99.99% chance. So that's 100% practically possible. What are you saying? You're saying that's not practically possible?
No, I'm saying that percentage is different in every case, and the doctor makes a determination, and they're not always going to do a perfect job because sometimes doctors face time-sensitive dilemmas and they just have to fucking do something. They don't always have a healthcare directive. They don't always have a family member to talk to. It's fucking complicated. That's why they go to school and and study ethics so they can become people who can make reasonable decisions, instead of you sitting here like a fucking jackass and sliding the slider from negligibly small, close to 0%, to negligibly far away from 100%, and acting like that's some kind of fucking argument that applies to any particular person's consideration. Try to tell that to a woman who's dying, but I know you can't fucking imagine that and give it weight because you don't have empathy for women, which you have demonstrated over and over and over again in this call.
Please explain to me how I do not have empathy for women. Like, you love to just say anything that's like insulting.
I'm not interested in repeating myself. You have demonstrated that you don't have empathy for women, and people who have empathy for women can see that by your behavior on my show. It's episode 84. Go watch it later if you want proof.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you to say something and prove any of your points, and you're just going to say, "Oh, I've already talked about it." That's just ridiculous. That's just weird.
Yeah, and I'll point out something that happens a lot on this show, which is when I so thoroughly prove something, people will just come back and give me the same argument again, give me the same source again, and I say, no, we've already been through this. It's on this episode. It was shown here.
So because I want to protect life past 30 weeks, I somehow don't value human. I don't value female
that's
empathy.
a straw man. That's not what I just said. What I just said is
that is literally what you just said.
Because I didn't say anything about 30 weeks. I wasn't even talking about you. I was saying that sometimes on this show, generally speaking, people bring me the same bad argument over and over and over again that I have already defeated and so throw away that it is a waste of my time as host of a show that, thank you, 1,100 people are watching. Holy shit. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, it's a waste of my fucking valuable airtime that pays my bills, pays Raven's bills, pays Jesse's bills, is going to be paying more people's bills soon if the calls keep going like fucking this with the Phil Bros on here, right? It's not a good use of my time to just do it over and over and over again when I can cite when it happened. And then people take me saying that and call it running, even though every conversation that happens on this show gets posted to the internet for people to look at forever, even the ones where I am wrong, because I have the intellectual integrity that you lack, that if you did have, you would have at numerous points in this conversation recognize that you are flatly wrong about your approach to this. But you are sitting around, you're sitting on this little hill to die on, which is your own pride, instead of the suffering of fucking women, which is why everybody watching this knows that you value your own pride over the suffering of women.
Yeah, so me saying that I want there to be some law that values both the mother's life and the fetus's life, and that we should do anything to protect both those lives, makes me this like horrible person that doesn't like value women. When did I ever say that like a fetus should be like valued over the woman? We just spent 45 minutes showing everybody that that is not what you want, that your understanding of this is limited, and you cannot see the ways in which. How is that not what I want? I just went through that line of questioning. No, this is the reboot where you know that so many people have joined since the beginning of the conversation. They do not know how thoroughly I have cooked you on all of this. So I'm just going to come back and say that you have so many times moved the goalpost in this conversation about abortion that you have run out of places to move it and started reusing goalposts from earlier in the conversation, which is why I am saying all of this instead of actually engaging with these points. You've engaged with anything I say. You're just like running through all these lines. Where episode 84, everybody. It's going to be on YouTube in VOD form by about 1 o'clock today because we're going to wrap up soon. I'll ask you a really simple question. In 4 sentences, can you tell me how I do not value women and I have no empathy for women? Or in 4 sentences, can you like, instead of just like running on and on and on with all of this just like recycled garbage, can you say anything about how, prove any of your points? I'll do it in 1 sentence, which is that you value the potential suffering of a ball of cells later in the future than the active suffering, to use your word, of a woman who is here now. I'm sorry. I said I could do it in 1 sentence and you're upset that I've been interrupting this whole time. You gave me 4, I took 1 and you didn't let me fucking finish it. Do you think that makes you look good in this conversation? Sure, I apologize. Finish your 1 sentence. You're not sorry. You just feel bad that you made yourself look even fucking worse. Everybody heard where I was going. I don't need to start it over. Okay, so you were done or you were not done with your sentence? Everybody heard where it was going. I was just pointing out that it was rude for you to step on my toes, given the way that you're upset with me stepping on your toes in this conversation, which I have warrant to do because of the way that you've behaved in this conversation, and I have authority to do because this is my fucking show. Yeah, sure. It is your show. Nice. But again, like nothing of what you just said proved anything about me not valuing human empathy. I don't think you've like heard or listened to anything I did. And there's nothing productive. Like I've been hearing your points. I've been responding to your points. Everybody shut up. Chat, just let me know if anybody feels like I haven't given fair attention and understanding to anything that Ben has said during this show. In fact, if you have a particular thing that Ben said that I didn't respond to and you want to think, oh my God, Oscar, you're not letting Ben talk. He said this and you didn't respond to it. Please put it in the chat right now and just tell me, Oscar, you should have addressed this. Other than that, just say the word fair. If you think I've been fair, you say the word fair. But I'll see in the chat if there's a word other than fair. And that message should be somebody saying... Jude Toft said Ben is right.
Oh, wow. How fucking specific. What was the point?
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. If that person could tell me exactly in what way I haven't been fair and what I failed to address, if that person could let me know the thing that I should be talking about that I'm not, please let me know. Let's slow down. The chat's going so fast. Respond to Ben who thinks 40 weeks is a fetus. Yeah, I mean, we did. Ben is young and ignorant. Sorry, that's not what we're looking for. More fair than he deserves. I agree. Oskar is a crybaby, not relevant, Scott. Scott, I'm sure we'll talk again later, you bitch. You clearly can't communicate in a way Ben understands. That's maybe true. You know, I can only dumb it down so much, right? The show would be boring, perhaps, if I spoke about it in a way that
when I asked you to say something in 4 sentences and you said something in 1 sentences, tell me if this is a straw man or not, but you were basically saying how I value this like potential sentience over like a already living woman, right? That has a past, present, and future subjective.
Yup.
So that's not okay. Great. Again, I've never held that position ever. I also gave you a dilemma where I valued a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old over someone who was 80 and who was going to die the next day. Again, I do think there is a value to past, like a past and present and future subjective. Like fetuses, obviously, before 20 weeks do not have that. Like if there's a choice where you save a mother and you save,
he's just vomiting up talking points that we've already fucking covered. Dude, what a flail. This is great. I'm going to put you on the big screen.
I'm responding to your 1 sentence. Sure,
I'm going to put you on the big screen so everybody can see the look on your face while you try to do this. Could you frame yourself a little lower? You're getting cut off on the YouTube stream. Like put your face, just put your face a little lower on the screen. The top of your head's cut off on the YouTube stream. There we go. That's much better. Thank you.
There we go. All right. Yeah. So you were saying how I value a future ball of sentience over like a mother. Again, I never claimed that. If there's a way that we could save both lives, I would always value that. But if it's a choice between a fetus at 18 weeks or say 24 weeks or a mother who's giving birth and I have to save one, I would 100% choose the mother 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Again, your whole argument on me has just never existed.
Right. You can narrow.
So
I just said that you're listen. You're mischaracterizing my 1 sentence. You're not answering to it wholly because I said that your whole perspective on this was based on valuing the potential suffering that hasn't happened for an unborn child yet against the suffering that is happening of a woman. And then in answering it, you narrowed it to a very specific case, which is one of the only cases in which you allow a medical abortion. And that is just absolutely missing the entire point of what I said, which is that at every step in this conversation, you have demonstrated your lack of care for women.
So prove it. You're literally saying nothing. Like you're just saying a bunch of words and then you're proving nothing.
Shut up for a second. How you doing, Dean?
Hey, what's going on, man? I just scrolled in here not too long ago, maybe 5 minutes. I would love to, talk abortion ethics with this fool to help you out, but I don't know if like you've already been talking abortion ethics with this fool for like an hour and this is just the tail end of a drastic conversation.
It's almost an hour and it is the most thorough cooking of an abortion argument I've ever seen, but I'd love to give you a chance.
Okay, well, see, I didn't know that scrolling in here. How about this?
No, the chat will maybe keep him honest on whether or not he's making up bullshit that I have already refuted. That'll be good for the engagement. Why don't you give it a try? I'm going to unmute him.
Yeah, how about this, Ben? Good to meet you. My name is Dean.
Nice to meet you.
So, what claim have you made about the reasons why it is the case that abortion is wrong or should be illegal that you do not feel as if Oskar successfully refuted?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've pretty much been on defensive this whole time. Like I could say about 2 words and then we've just kind of like tiptoed around like a bunch of different areas. I'm more on the side about talking about like where he starts to value a fetus and whether or not that we should prioritize both lives, the mother and the fetus past sentience at say 24 weeks. And then he would just, attack me and say I don't have empathy for women, even though I want both of those lives to be valued.
I think Dean, did I hear my name? Do you have a question for me?
Oh, no, a question for Ben. Ben,
sure.
A question for you is, well, clearly, can we agree that Oskar's thoughts on the permissibility or the lack thereof of abortion after sentience is completely irrelevant insofar as why you think that abortion should be illegal? So that would be a burden shift. The question is, what claim have you made to demonstrate the impermissibility of abortion that you feel as if Oskar has not been able to successfully refute? Can you please answer the question?
Is this referring to a specific time? Like, would you say that a fetus at 40 weeks has no right to life? Or are you referring to a specific time period?
Would you say that you're burden shifting? I'm just asking you why you think abortion should be illegal, Ben.
Yeah, because I think it's the unjustified killing of a human life.
Okay, and would you say that it's always wrong to end human life?
No, that's why I say unjustified.
So why is it unjustified in this scenario?
Which scenario? Just like any abortion?
I mean, the scenario of abortion that you just said was unjustified. I'd assume elective circumstances. I don't know. I don't know what you think. Just tell us why you think an abortion is unjustified.
Sure. Elective past like 24 weeks. I'm using this because I'll be honest. I don't think I have a great argument past sentience. I would appeal to my own value in humans, and I would say that humans have something like a soul that exists past the mind, and that would appeal to my religion, which obviously is something that I would have to prove to you guys, which is not possible. So I can't really use that. So
that the foundation for your claim insofar as why you think abortion is wrong is impossible to prove?
Sure. Well, I mean, you could go deep down into semantics on anything, and you could say that anything's really impossible to prove. Like
I definitely reject that claim, but it seems like you accept that claim. So ultimately, if you think that the foundation for your claim that abortion is wrong is impossible to prove, who's to stop me from saying, well, actually, I just have some baseless faith in a God, and I basically believe that this God thinks that abortion is okay. Therefore, I think that
Sorry, I glitched out for a second. If you want to go back like 10 seconds.
So who's to stop me from saying that I basically have faith in a God? I basically think that this God thinks that abortion is okay. For that reason, I think that abortion is morally permissible. But I do acknowledge that ultimately the foundation for the claim that abortion is morally permissible is impossible to prove. How can we distinguish between the validity of your claim and the validity of my claim? More so the soundness of your claim and the soundness of my claim. How do we know who's right and wrong? Do you have any more epistemological?
Yeah, exactly. It goes to the soundness.
Is there any relevant difference that you could point out between the rational faculties I use to ground my claim that abortion is permissible in the hypothetical compared to the rational faculties that you use to ground your claim in real life?
Yeah, so normally when I argue with people about abortion, you use their own definitions and their own value systems. Like often you try to use hypotheticals to get like where we actually start to value human life. Like normally everyone values human life at a certain point. Like most people will agree that like killing, like unjustified killing is wrong, but there's probably some psychopaths out here that would disagree with that. And like you can argue with them, but at a certain point they might just not agree with you. So like often I go off other people's like values and morals and their own standpoints, and I try to see where they find value in humans, and then I argue off that. So like obviously like validity of our arguments comes from soundness, facts to prove our opinions, and logical reasoning. And then like obviously there's probably smaller things like consensus or intelligence, like things like that can make someone's opinion more valid than others.
Okay, so you told me that the way that we differentiate between the justification that exists for your value system compared to my value system is maybe if we were to use like, reductios or hypothetical scenarios to test one's internal consistency. Well, I don't think that a belief merely being internally consistent means that belief is therefore true, right? So just because you think that your value system is internally consistent doesn't push the pendulum forward insofar as demonstrating that your value system is an accurate representation of reality. And the question is, how do you know that the value system that you hold to that underpins your belief that abortion is wrong is an accurate representation of reality?
How would you answer your own question?
I mean, A, that'd be a burden shift. But B, if you're just generally curious, this is where I'd go into, how I define the study of ethics as a whole, why I think that humans need a guide for morality, and that would be reducible to mental states such as pain, pleasure, flourishment, and decay, and why I believe that this particular trait that I value, such as the capacity to intellectualize, that arises at 20 through 24 weeks, creates a subject and allows for the experience of the base set of faculties that are necessary for the exploration of morality, such as pain, pleasure, flourishment, and decay. And then ultimately ground that in the reason insofar as why I value that trait, which then explains why I don't think that abortion is wrong prior to that point. That's how I'd answer that question.
Well, I'll jump in, Dean, and just say that that's basically the argument that I gave roughly. And we found ourselves in a situation where when he was trying to found his perspective in what's actually going on in reality, he gave me a definition of what made it not okay. And I said it applied to sperm and egg that aren't even fertilized yet. So he moved the goalpost to the unique human life that is a fertilized cell, at which point I said that the same is true of cancer. And then he moved on to potential suffering, which brought us back to this whole concern about how he doesn't seem to care about the suffering of women who are alive instead of the suffering of organisms that maybe are alive but haven't suffered yet. So there's a lot of goalpost whack-a-mole going on here. We're pretty lost in that sauce already, which is why he's being so dang careful.
Yeah. So Dean, are you?
The reason why he's trying to burden shift onto me right now when I'm the one challenging his beliefs is pretty clear. It's because his belief that abortion is wrong is self-admittedly reducible by second order to faith. Okay, we should not hold claims that are reducible by second order to faith. Okay, that's a bad thing to do, Ben, because those beliefs don't reliably track truth. If I believe that you are a pedophilic murderer because I have faith that you're a pedophilic murderer, I'm not justified in throwing you in jail or ending your life. The same way that you believe that a woman who gets an abortion is doing something wrong by faith in second order, you are not justified in then voting for legislation to restrict her access to said healthcare.
Yeah, sure. Would you hold the same opinion? Like, are you vegan? Because, like animals past, I mean, actually, I don't know if it's the same week gestation because different animals have different gestation, but say like in a live, like chicken, right? Like it like all the things that you listed for its like subjective experience would be the same for like a human past 24 weeks. Do they have a right not to be killed?
A, burden shift. B, my view accounts for vegan ethics, and I could explain why. And C, this is a non-response to anything that I just said.
Well, it is a response. I'm seeing where your claims are coming from. So you are vegan.
So the last thing that I said was an interrogation of your view. You responded to my interrogation of your view with a question about my view. So when you respond to a question and interrogation of your view with a question and interrogation of the view of the person that asked said question, you would be dodging.
Sure, say I'm dodging, but are you vegan? Like, do you concede?
Okay, so if you're dodging the argument, do you concede the argument?
I'm not conceding anything. I'm countering on your position.
So then why are you dodging? So like, it seems like I just like, tell me I'm wrong here. Correct me on this one. But if you're like dodging an argument, this means either that you think the argument successfully demonstrates why you're wrong, or, well, I actually can't think of another option. If you're dodging an argument, you think that argument successfully demonstrates why you're wrong, can't come up with a sufficient counter to it. So demonstrate that it's not true, that you think the argument I just gave successfully demonstrates that you're wrong by coming up with a sufficient counter to it.
Yeah, well, you said that like you can't make arguments based off faith, but like obviously there's a certain amount of like intellectual thought that goes into faith. Like I have my faith in God based on many different things, and I think there are factual examples that you could give to an existence of a soul that exists beyond the mind. So I wouldn't really consider that faith. Like I think God has interworkings in our life that are intellectually observed by facts and reasoning.
I would like to jump into just like, this is kind of broad and it jumps us out of the conversation a little bit, but I think that you understand that I would have the same response about all these religious convictions that Dean is having right now, which is why you didn't bring them up for 40 minutes. And I'm going to, at this point, accuse you of being completely disingenuous about every single one of those goalpost moves because none of them matter to you. It's all because of your religious convictions. So you were just trying to argue in bad faith in a way that was effective on me. And I think that's a terrible thing to do in a debate.
Yeah, I don't think I was being disingenuous. Like I often, the reason why I don't bring in religion is because it's kind of a moot point. Like you can't really prove lots of these things. So I can find ways to like factually argue with people.
Right. So you think that you're right because of religion, and then you are seeking for ways to argue that you're right, regardless of whether or not those are good arguments or whether or not the arguments make any good sense. And that's what I'm saying is that you're not actually telling us the reason that you think you're right. You're lying to us about what you think these good reasons are because they don't matter because it's your religious convictions that matter.
Yeah. So again, I literally just said that that's not true. Like I have been not a supporter of abortion way longer than I've had faith in Christ. I had opinions in this, and I was not a supporter of abortion before I had faith, and I had reasons for that, which are reasons now. And then again, I look at new science and I look at new facts, and I see like, oh yeah, like a fertilized egg is a unique organism that's growing and alive. Like nice, that study comes out of the University of Chicago. Like great, and like we come up with new science, and like my opinion
always adapts and changes. But yeah, I find worth in humans because we're made in God's image, and because I think there's an existence of the soul.
Why did you spend 40 minutes arguing with me about all this other shit when it all boils down to that? Why were you lying to me the entire time about why you believe this stuff?
Dude, what does that have to do with lying? Like, everything I still said to you, I believe. What is this lying?
Okay, I think it's lying by omission for you to sit and get cornered by me for 40 minutes on exactly how we value suffering and how any of this makes any ethical sense, when the actual answer is not that you think that there's an ethical reason why your perspective makes sense. It's just because your religion says so. You can call that an ethical reason, but I don't recognize it as one, which is why I think it's completely disingenuous for you to sit here and engage with the very Philbro style conversation that we were having about ethics, when in reality just none of that actually does matter to you. Which again, the whole conversation really came down to the suffering of women not mattering to you, which again, this is all just further evidence that it doesn't matter to you. The will of God is what matters.
What is with you and the suffering of women?
Like, I fucking care about the suffering of women. Fuck me.
I do too.
I am. Shit.
I do too. You I don't know what's like. You constantly just have this like absurd straw man.
It's my deepest flaw when we're talking to people like you.
You completely fabricate things that were never ever even said or insinuated by anything I've said. Like all you do is just like yell and scream and insult. Like I listened to a few of your lives and I thought they were okay. And I have amazing talks with like many people on a very large range of topics. And I've never really had like just this, you just insulting. Like you if you want people to like come to your side, you provide your facts and your logic and your argumentation.
Yes or no in the chat. Yes or no in the chat. Ben, shut up for a second. Yes or no in the chat. Excuse me, Ben. Yes or no in the chat.
Go to your chat.
I just want to check if everybody just yes or no. I don't want to see anything in the chat except for yes and no for a second here. I just want people to say yes or no. Has Ben given a fair characterization of the way that I have treated him for the last hour? Just yes or no.
Could you tell me one insult that you've said to me on my character? You've probably said like 50 things about me. Like why would I want to
mostly
believe
that you don't care about the suffering of women? That's like, as far as direct insults against your characters go, I mean, that's the only.
Is that not me suffering? Don't you care about not suffering? Like that might make me feel bad.
If it causes you to suffer, that I am pointing out to people that you don't care about women in that way, I consider it defense of those women, so I allow it. I'm not a pacifist.
Man, like
I don't care if your feelings are hurt by me pointing that out.
Yeah, I asked you for your one sentence thing on how I don't care about the suffering of women, and it said because I value a ball of future sentience more than a woman, which I just completely disproved, and how that's not true.
Well, so you do because of your religion, which means that you value your religion over the suffering of women, which is one of my chief complaints with religion generally.
Hey, I'm back. Let me know when I could hop in for a moment. I don't want to derail the conversation that's already going on. So
it wasn't on the tracks. What do you got, dude?
Well, I mean, yeah, even this guy, like, invoking his religion and stating that he believes a fetus is a soul does not get us any closer to the conclusion that abortion's wrong. There are many different religious individuals, even like under Catholicism or just general Christianity, that disagree on what the soul is, disagree when, the human body receives the soul, and thereby disagrees on when the human becomes of moral value. Like, a really, famous example of this would be St. Thomas Aquinas. He believes that the soul is vested in, I don't know the specific domestic language, that the body receives the soul later into the term of pregnancy, and because of said delayed ensoulment, it is only later in the pregnancy that the human body becomes of moral value. So I guess, Ben, my question for you would be, A, what is a soul? And B, when does the fetus get a soul?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to tell me exactly what Thomas Aquinas was actually saying, because I think he was talking about the continued development of the soul and how the soul is like changed and propagated through your life's experience and through a subjective experience. So I don't know if that's exactly
that's not true. But
so like what specifically is the quote that you're referring to? Because I may have not heard.
So, I mean, you could just look up on Google St. Thomas Aquinas' thoughts on delayed ensoulment, and you could read his work that states that, like, later in the term of pregnancy, he believes that the soul is entrapped within the body of the fetus. It's hylomorphic animalism. That's like the metaphysical view on the nature of being that many Thomistic Catholics uphold, many Christians that are pretty deep into the philosophy of being. And that was his view. And that's hylomorphic animalism basically believes that a complete human being is comprised of biology plus, like something immaterial like the soul. And he believed that completeness of the human being only occurred later in the term of pregnancy. But I'm not asking you about Thomas Aquinas' views here. I'm asking you about your view. What is a soul and when does a fetus get it?
Yeah, I think soul has to do with like reasoning, intelligence, emotion, like the essence of one's being. So kind of like how you as a human actually do procedural things. So like, for example, you can be born without a brain and actually still function. Like you can just have a brainstem. There's a few cases where someone without a brainstem, he obviously can't speak and he's paralyzed, but he can laugh, he can cry, he's paralyzed from like, I believe the waist down. He doesn't have like control over his body. But he like has personality. Like he has ways that he can like communicate with his parents and do certain things. There's also cases of the brain being completely separated in half, which is also something that can be completely fine. And the two brains, even though separated, can communicate with each other and like have reasoning. So if you tell like half of the story to one part of the brain and another half of the story to another part of the brain, they can create the full story. So say like you say baseball to one half and then you say, a broken window to the other half. It can complete the story. And obviously someone hit a baseball and broke the window. So there's like, I wouldn't say that we have a great understanding of really what it is, but it is something that kind of unifies the mind and is outside of the mind. There's also cases of people having death experiences where their heart stops and they talk how they kind of like pop out of the body. There was one case where someone I think her heart stopped for minutes and the doctor was doing procedures on her. And she specifically told the doctor after she came back to life and her heart was started on like what instruments he was using and what he was actually doing. So I wouldn't tell you that I have a great definition of what the soul is, but I do think there is something more that like defines us as people.
Hey, my friend, my question was, what's the soul? And then you spoke for about a minute and a half just to then say that you don't know what the soul is.
No, I was saying it was complicated. I did give like a short definition at the start, and then like I don't really have a very rigid definition. Like the more I understand,
is that your best definition of what a soul is? The essence of being?
Yeah, that differentiates you from other people. Like I'm saying that the soul is this like
makes you different from other people.
Yeah, sure. I don't think we're different. I don't think we're different just because of our nurture. Like I'd say if you had two people that received the exact same nurture and were genetically the same, I think those two people could end up very different.
Yeah, but like, why are we concerned with your assessment of whether or not those people are different from each other instead of just assessing whether or not the things that we are making policies about happening to them cause them to suffer or not?
Yeah, because I think the soul I don't think the soul wants to die. I think the soul wants to materialize in a body and live a life. Like I think the soul develops more as it exists and it wants to. Like God does not, like God was knitting you in your womb. Now, obviously that's, you probably wouldn't hold to that opinion, but like the whole point is that someone with a soul, that soul wants to exist. That soul wants to, experience life and come to Christ in the way that God designed the world to function that way. So like the termination.
I still just don't think that he's gotten any closer to telling us what a soul is. He said the essence of being. He said the thing that makes us different from others. Okay, well, first and foremost, there are many things that make us different from others. Many things that make us different from others. And we could even identify differences between things that aren't humans. We could identify differences between inanimate objects. We could identify differences between cows, chickens, and pigs. So just saying that, well, the thing that makes something different, X different from Y, is a soul is definitely
sure. That's different than the nurture and the specific nature that applies to the genetic code.
Those three words, nurture, nature, and genetic, also don't help me to get any closer to understanding what you mean by the word soul.
We also, using those sorts of definitions, get back to some of the goalpost shifting we had earlier in the conversation before you showed up, Dean, about how we can start listing things that meet those definitions that obviously don't have a soul in his perspective, things like cancerous tumors and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, or even if it seems like he's maybe reducing what a soul is down to a personality. Like clearly, like zygotes and fetuses don't have personalities. So under that view, it doesn't seem like a zygote or a fetus would have a soul. So I don't think you defining a soul as a personality is really.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a personality. I said the soul can develop. The soul like changes. Like your soul's never going to stay the same.
Well, then what is a soul? I'm still confused.
Okay, like, would you disagree with all the points of like the existence of something else apart from the mind? Like, I'm not saying that I have this great definition of soul, but like to the point where the brain being split in half, or just having a brainstem, or the outward body experiences that happen when you're actually dead.
Okay, well, out-of-body experiences for patients that have died change dependent on the religion that they've practiced during their life, and for atheists, they generally don't report them at all. So those are just kind of delusions as demonstrated empirically. This also doesn't get me any closer to understanding what you think a soul is. Like, do you just think that a soul is like an immaterial mind?
So this is a way that I'm trying to describe the soul. Like, I believe that because we're made in God's image, we have a specific soul that differentiates us from, say, animals who are not made in the image of God. So I'm materializing that in a definition of what I consider the soul, and how we have something that's unique in that way.
Okay,
that,
so
say,
then what does a fetus have that's unique from an animal outside of their genetic code? Like, that makes them a member of the human species? Because I don't think that you'd argue the species of a fetus is the soul of a fetus. So if that's not the difference between the fetus and the animal, that makes
you can't have the soul if you're not a part of the species.
Okay, well then just explain to me what difference exists between a fetus and a non-human animal that describes to me what you think the soul of that fetus is. I'm just still really confused.
Yeah, do like animals have concrete feelings on morality, or do they just have an evolutionary perspective on like how they exist? Do animals like contemplate their existence?
So
I don't think that's just an intelligence thing.
So fetuses don't contemplate their existence either. So that's not a difference. Maybe if you'd say one's ability to contemplate their own existence is portraying of that individual's soul, well, then it seems like the fetus doesn't have a soul because they can't contemplate their existence.
Again, the soul is more expressed once you gain the words and the ability to express that soul. Like, you are born with it, but so then you are able to show it more when you're more intellectually apt to do so.
Well, then who's to say that your view of what a soul is not just completely compatible with mine, Oscar's thoughts and opinions on abortion, arguing that it's only at like 20 through 24 weeks with the ability to deploy low levels of first-person subjective experiences, or my position on the capacity to intellectualize it. That is when the fetus gains the soul, because that is when the fetus is made into a subject and is differentiated from non-human animals. Like, I'd actually argue here that your view on the soul is fully compatible with our thoughts on the pro-choice worldview.
Yeah, I don't think the soul comes with consciousness. I think the soul can be expressed through consciousness.
Does the soul go to heaven? Wait, if you think that the fetus has a soul in that first trimester where I allow elective abortions, is that correct?
Sorry, say what you said again. What am I saying?
You think that there's a soul in the fetus that I would allow elective abortions for during the first trimester? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, sure.
Does it go to heaven?
I'm not sure if the Bible's extremely clear on that, but I would assume it would, because God is just. Like, I think I think you should
get to studying, because that seems pretty fucking important. Because if that soul goes to heaven, it sounds like abortion clinics are doing the Lord's work.
How about this, Ben? What's the argument that a fetus has a soul?
What's the argument that a fetus has a soul?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's something that's like non-studyable. Like, I don't think we have enough like.
Oh, wait, are you saying that you don't have an argument for that conclusion?
Are you saying that we know the perfect answer to everything without science? Like, how would we know that an embryo was alive 1,000 years ago? Like, if I asked you 1,000 years ago, do you know if an embryo was alive?
I just want a yes or no. I just want a yes or no.
Hold on, no, you've been questioning me the whole time. I'm asking you if 1,000 years ago, how would we know fertilization if it's alive?
Dude, let him talk. Dean is maybe aware that I don't generally use the mute button on my show. Dean, you're welcome to. I made you a moderator. You can do whatever you want on my show. But yeah, like, stop talking over Dean. He's trying to get to the rub of this.
Yeah, don't burden shift, Ben. Just answer the question, yes or no. Do you or do you not have an argument for the claim that the fetus has a soul?
Okay, do you have an argument if whether or not 1,000 years ago, if a fetus has consciousness,
Ben,
how would we know that? How would we know at 24 weeks without science and testing?
Ben, you're burden shifting.
Hold on.
Do you or do you not have an argument?
You've probably asked me 25 questions in a row. Why can I not examine your position?
Yeah, you can't, because I'm interrogating yours. So do you or do you not have an argument that the fetus has a soul? Did he leave?
I think he ran.
Did he actually?
Dude, he was so cornered when you arrived. He was already it was already over when you got here, and it was really fun to watch him navigate that conversation, knowing that the chat would be blowing up if he tried to go back on the. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting here and I can point out, you're going back to one of your goalpost moves from earlier in the conversation. We covered a lot before you got here. That was the okay. I'm gonna for everybody. I'm gonna answer something that has been blowing up in the chat and the donations that I'm gonna have to spend 20 minutes reading at the end of today's stream because there's a lot that have come in. Thanks everybody. Yeah, it was 3 people without uteruses talking about abortion, but. Obviously, because I talk about abortion on this show in the first place, I recognize that I consider it of some value for me to have those conversations. And one of the reasons that I do is because assholes like that caller will fucking listen to me. And if that's misogynistic and we see how people like him behave when we allow a woman up, I don't think we would have had so thorough a cooking if we had somebody up here who he was going to be disrespectful for and get booted for saying a slur or something like that. So it's one of the reasons I allow these sorts of conversations, even though we're not here, we don't have representation from the people that we're advocating for, because I think it's important for people like that caller to see that there are people who aren't affected by an issue that will advocate for it completely fucking tooth and nail. So to that point, which I will have to respond to a little bit more because some of the donations were addressing it, I don't think I have ever so thoroughly refuted so many individual attempts at defending such a religious Philbro type of argument for abortion. And Dean showing up when I was getting ready to hang up on him for it not being productive just to start the conversation over, essentially, and pick a different direction with it, which is when we learned that he was hiding behind religious convictions. He was hiding his religious convictions behind all these bad Philbro arguments the entire time, is the cherry on top of the shit sundae that has been this call. So thank you for that, Dean. Sorry for not having representation up. I often do. It's a variety show. We do different stuff here for all the new viewers. Also, thanks, Dean, for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you for letting me up, and I hope you have a good rest of your stream, Oscar. I'm going to go ahead and drop down now.
Yeah, I'll wait until I hear something interesting happen on your show, and I'll get in your request.
Hell yeah. Take care, bro. Peace.
Catch you later, Dean. Well, everybody, that's been the Oskar Quentin show today. W. Dean for making it a slightly unusual show in terms of the viewership. I am just going to spend a moment reminding everybody that the evening show is on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central Time. YouTube only, so we can get around the filters. We might have a similar conversation as the one that we just had, given the guests tonight. So if you thought that was interesting and you want to see more, you can follow me on the link tree in the bio on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all the various places. Backup account down here. Get in there, follow that, in case I get taken down, for being underage or something that TikTok might say about me. Raven, who's over in the producer seat, do I have anything before we get to reading donations? Am I missing any housekeeping?
No. If before we get off, I would like the mic for a minute, though.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So one thing about this whole conversation about representation is that I do think it's worthwhile for Oskar to be having these conversations. I will have a little bit of pushback and say that I would like you to refine your conversations a little bit and work on pinning down the morality of dismissing the suffering of women, because I do think that needs to be a more focused point of it, as well as having them mentally deal with their side is trying to have laws that make abortions absolutely illegal. They're trying to take away contraceptives. Their side is so far past what his belief is, because he actually agreed with you that abortion past 24 weeks should be just trying to have the baby come out and still be alive. He just communicated that really poorly. So you actually had some common ground there. He just didn't understand the terms he was using was wrong. And so we can bring that back to politicians don't know more than doctors, and that he wants to defer to politicians without medical evidence instead of listening to the doctors, which he himself said is important. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Without further ado, for everybody who's new, 10 to 12 Central Time every single day, sometimes longer on days like today where interesting things happen. But I'm going to get to reading some donations because, my goodness, a lot came in. So I'm sorry to everybody who maybe isn't going to get theirs read live and might have to listen to it after the fact. But we are going to get to reading, so let's see how well I can motor mouth for all my new viewers. Nia sent me $5 on Venmo to say, I have firsthand experience with U.S. immigration here in Canada. I had a green card for 15 years, moved home and tried to come back. It was miserable, couldn't get my green card back due to the country-based visa limits. Found a loophole after hiring a lawyer. The system is broken. We talk a lot about how the system is broken and how there's well-meaning people like yourself, Nia, trying all the time. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you had a rough go of it. David sent $5 on Venmo to say, bro, I have a bro named Phil. He's a dumbass. Love you, David. David's always got the puns in his messages, so W's in the chat for David. Colin sent me $5 to say, 2 dude debating abortion is super lame. Oh yeah, I said that was going to come up in the donations. I appreciate the donation, even if it was to get that in. But I do think that there's value in just getting more conversations where the Philbros are listening, because the fucking Philbros don't listen to women. Like, that's part of the problem that we're dealing with. So if I get called a misogynist for having a conversation about abortion without a woman present or without somebody who has a uterus present, fine. But I do think that that was a good conversation. I think we demonstrated that his line of reasoning around all this is fucking horse shit. Jared sent me $25 on Venmo to say, give the child a few years to grow up and hopefully he'll look back at himself in this debate and feel nauseous. Yeah, thank you for the $25. I do think that it's probably going to bug him later that conversation is going to exist forever on the internet. David sent another $5 to say, Ben said one sentences, LOL. Yeah, he did say one sentences. His grasp of English wasn't quite as good as he maybe thought it was. Fee sent me $1. She said, hi, woman here. Some women are pregnant until 40 weeks, but also don't do abortions past 23 weeks from what I remember. If a woman is pregnant at 40 weeks, they just gave a C-section or birth. You cannot abort a 40-week baby. Yeah, I briefly missed the fact that he had increased the number of weeks in the conversation from 30 to 40, and because that didn't change my argument, I didn't notice right away that that was like too long. But yes, there are some pregnancies that are that long. They're just rare. Andrew sent me $2 to say, I can explain to caller why having these laws are, and Venmo cut off the rest of it, so I'm going to refresh. Venmo, fix your shit. You're fucking up my airtime. Why laws are not possible to value and give importance to both mom and the fetus. At what point in the death process can a doctor help me? Don't forget, if the law thinks the doctor was wrong, they will go to jail. Do you understand why these laws are wrong? I think I might have gotten to some kind of point. I think that came in before I brought it up, but thank you very much for the $2, Andrea. Jared sent me another $25 to say, if animals are angels sent by heaven to spread love and joy, Republicans are literal demons sent from hell to spread chaos and suffering. I agree, Jared. I don't agree. I'm an atheist, but I think it's silly to say that, and I appreciate the donation. For $5, Evan sent on Venmo, he gets to say just a period. Just period. I think he's like doing like a kind of period sort of thing. I'm going to hop over to Cash App and see that Joseph, frequent donor, sent $5 to say abortion is up to the woman. End of story, my view. Roughly is kind of where I was trying to get that guy, but that's not how it went. Noodle says bark bark for $0 at all. W Noodle. Araxis sent $2 to say, guest doesn't need a debate, he needs therapy. I fucking agree. Why does he care about all this stuff? He needs to get his head out of his ass. He needs to get his head out of the Bible and start looking at what's going on in the world. And then we have Brittany, who sent $1 to say, on the subject of abortions, read and left no soul. Don't quite understand that, but I appreciate you, Brittany. Maybe I'm just not reading it correctly because I'm in a little bit of a hurry to get through these because Annika sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say daily dono. Can't wait to. Nope, I already read that one. Thank you, Annika. Seiko sent, hey caller, that private plane is. Why am I missing these? I already read that one. Thank you again, Seiko, for the $5. Here's where I was. Different one from Annika for $5. She said, is there a book resource I can learn about your philosophical stance about suffering, Oskar? I'm pretty uninformed on philosophy and would love to learn. See, but all those books turn people into fucking Philbros, which is why I had to abandon that path in life. I'm going to write the book. I'm sorry, I haven't written it yet. Katie Meyer sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I am not a human incubator. We never argue about men's reproductive bodily autonomy. The right doesn't even want me to have birth control. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this all is just rooted in misogyny, and I know that I could address the misogyny more directly, but it puts their guard up. So I actually prefer to play the philosophical whack-a-mole that gets all their various guards down so that then we can bring up suffering and see where it goes from there. And I did that a couple times throughout the call, is that we bring it back to suffering after we go so far down the rabbit hole that it's a point at which if I point out that you're ignoring the women's suffering, it's really obvious to everyone because you're so concerned about all these random fucking definitions about whether this ball of cells has this potential or that potential or whatever. It's kind of I like to think of it as like some kind of 4D chess thing that I'm doing on the show. Can we do a forced vasectomy for this guy, please, for $2 on Kronos? Forced vasectomy fund, link tree in the bio. Marcia sent $5 to say, one, cesareans are deliveries and are never abortions. Technically, a lot of most doctors do define cesareans as abortion. I think you might be wrong there. Ethically, I get where you're coming from, but the whole point of us pointing that out is that the definitions are not something to get our feelings hurt about. Anyway, a 40-week late-term pregnancy and the baby has to be delivered. Save both mom and the baby. Yes, they absolutely do. That's correct. Katie sent $2 to say C-section is considered an abortion. Dumbass. Maybe they were talking to the previous donors. We got so many dramas. We got so many donations. There's drama between the donors, but I do think that Katie's just right here definitionally in the prescriptivist way that I was talking about, which is important in medicine. We really got to respect the definitions. It's not up to us what we feel about them. We can do that in other places, but not medicine. Marcia sent $10 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I have been an OR nurse and labor and delivery nurse 20 plus years. The ignorance people have over the avoidable, devastating outcomes is painful to hear. Just allow women to make that decision. He is ignorant. Yeah, I tried to get him to think that way. It didn't quite work. LT Cole sent $25 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I think your Republican callers are using abortion as a security blanket. No matter the subject, it become a debate about abortion. Graham, McConnell, Iran, ICE. Nope, just more abortion debates. I would say abortion and trans rights are the kind of the wedge issues that they use to get away from the war in Iran or the actual policies, the things that are affecting the economy in this country. I agree completely. Jennifer sent me $2 on YouTube Super Chat to say, why are so many men arguing about a woman's body? Yes. Sorry, I've addressed that. But I mean, the conversation did happen, and I think some good came of it because it really got to the problem of a lot of the Philbro arguments for abortion. Jazz sent $5 to say, a woman has to consent to carry a fetus to term. You can always revoke consent. A fetus taking from a non-consenting woman's body is just a parasite. I agree. USB-C said for $10 on YouTube Super Chat, faith is not relevant to the truth. It is totally impossible to build a system of self-consistent floating beliefs that were also disconnected from reality. Yeah, he actually let it slip. He put out, I think the word that he said that it was unprovable. It was like unstudyable. That's what he said. That his claim was unstudyable. Fucking admission of the day. Jazz sent $2 to say, genuinely, caller, make yourself a eunuch, please. I don't think he's going to have any trouble not reproducing. I think that the world will work that out for him. Kronos sent $5 to say, stop trying to shit on Hollow. It's not going to happen, weirdos. I don't know what you're talking about, but I love you, Kronos. And then Pudgy renewed their membership because I think they already were a membership. So welcome back.
That dono was about somebody threatening Hollow Blossom in the chat.
Oh, that's fucked up. Yeah. We love Hollow Blossom. Hollow Blossom's is family of the team. Oh my gosh! And then over on Cash App, we do have some new ones because V sent me $15 to say the RepublicanRepairShop.com. I trust V enough to not be worried about that shout out, so I'll let her have it. Brandon sent $100. Holy shit! Hey Oscar, just found you. Here's my entrance fee, dude. There's no entrance fee, but fucking you know that. Thank you, dude. That's not an entrance fee. That doesn't let you in. That lets cool shit happen in the future. I got travel planned. I got 2 employees who work for the fucking show now. That's fucking incredible. We're probably, if we have time, the stream ran a little long today. Me and Raven are probably going to run over to Micro Center and buy some gear for running the show better, to get our editing workflow better, and to get gear that'll be useful for going on site in different states, and then for like protest stuff, because to all the new people watching, I do like outdoor protest stuff as well. I live here in Minneapolis. So thank you very much for the $100. Like, I'm really trying to, the show has met my needs. I'm trying to leverage the rest of what the show can provide to me to like make the show better and really accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish on here. And I consider it an incredible fucking honor to be able to, so many people are just voting with their wallet for me to get to keep working on this project. So the fact that that's happening is fucking incredible. Annika is one of those people. She sent another $5 to say, I won't become a Philbro. I swear. I just really relate to that philosophical line, and I assume there was a pool of resources that informed you on it. I always like to joke that I was a Philbro, but the reason I left the philosophy club that I was president of at my college is because it was full of Philbros, and they just became a bunch of misogynistic assholes. So I think that if you're not a misogynistic asshole and you read philosophy, it will get you to a place where that's better. The thing I'll say is that I generally respect utilitarianism, which you can go read about, but I'm really interested in Rawls's critique on utilitarianism. He has this thing where we can measure suffering and impact on the world, which is kind of what utilitarianism looks at. But his critique is that it's okay to make rules that seem unfair in a utilitarian sense if they are unfair in a way that advantages groups that were at the start already disadvantaged. And I think that accounts for a lot of things that we have to contend with, given the sort of institutionalized problems, given that there are so many ways that people get born into this world already disadvantaged. I think it's reasonable for us to try to correct the status quo by making rules that disproportionately benefit such people. And that's like fundamentally where my ethical framework lies. I'm a utilitarian who measures suffering in my utilitarian analysis, and I allow an asterisk for the Rawlsian critique. So you can go research those things. John Rawls is the guy who wrote that stuff, if you want to go down the Philbro avenue on that. But that's fundamentally why I am the way I am. I learned that in college, looked at the philosophy club I was a president of, said these are a bunch of misogynistic incels, and then I went and did other things with my life. That's why I was a high school teacher. I got into education and a bunch of other stuff that I've done in my life, but I resigned being an educator to run this show because I think I'm educating more people from this chair than I was up behind the lectern at the front of a high school classroom. Anyway, thanks everybody. It's been obviously a pretty cool stream. W. Dean for showing up and give me that little boost. He's very casual about it, but he knows what it means to show up in a stream and stay on it for as long as he did. So thanks to him for that. 7 p.m. Get on that link tree in my bio, because 7 p.m. Central Time today I'm doing an off TikTok stream, so you get to hear me outside of a TikTok filter. That's gonna be great. And then the members only stream, if you're a monthly paying member here on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. There's only like a dozen members, and I just message them, ask them if they want me to set up a stream. But Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, definitely there's a members only stream that happens after the evening show concludes, after around about 9 p.m. Central Time, where we can just kick it and chat, do AMA type stuff. I don't know, ask me questions about my dog and my hobbies and stuff. Maybe I'll play some guitar, hang out with my kitty Suki, or any of my other kitties who might show up. That's the casual thing. I think I'm gonna wrap the show there and say thanks everybody for an incredible stream. Raven, do you have anything that I've forgotten?
I'll be on the members only stream tonight for everybody that's been asking.
Yes, Raven will be in-house for that. It's only been Jesse, the other producer, so far. Because the producer role floats around. Oh, and then Lucky Phil is telling me in the chat that I should look at my Buy Me a Coffee. Noodle says it's time to play. Soul of a Fetus is my Cannibal Corpse cover band. Lucky Phil, thank you for the $2. I appreciate you. Soul of a Fetus is my Cannibal Corpse cover band. Love that. Just going to double check the donations because I know a lot are rolling in at the end of the stream before I sign off for the day improper. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's the show, everybody. I think I'll see you tonight, 7 p.m. on YouTube, and then after that on the members only, and then again, 10 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, because I'm live every single day here on TikTok and on YouTube. Goodbye, TikTok. I'll see you tomorrow. And goodbye, YouTube.